Chapter 555 Three strokes fuse into one. After clearly seeing the symbol, Wang Lin turned his head around. By the time he turned around, the life seal had already disappeared, and his expression was completely neutral. Yao Shishu had already moved far off into the distance, and Wang Lin casually followed behind her. His mind was still thinking of that symbol he saw on the statue. That symbol was similar to the three-stroke symbol in Yao Shue's eyes and to the golden symbol in his eyes. As Wang Lin walked, he raised his hand and his gaze fell on his palm. The six-stroke symbol appeared on his hand once more. This symbol is interesting. It seems to be the foundation. Whether it is Yao Shishui's three-stroke symbol or my six-stroke symbol, both contain this symbol. His eyes lit up and he waved his hand to draw that symbol. His finger contained celestial spiritual energy, but there was no reaction from the celestial spiritual energy in his body after he drew it. Wang Lin pondered a bit before memorizing the symbol and then no longer thought about it. His eyes revealed a mysterious light as he looked into the distance at Yao Shishui. She has the blood soul pill, so if I were to sneak attack her, she would just be able to revive. It would be difficult to kill her. 7 days later, another platform appeared at the end of the revered dragon path. This platform was the same size as the previous one, and like the previous one, there was a statue at the center. Even the appearance of this statue was almost no different from the previous one. The only difference was that this statue had a half-closed third eye on its forehead. At the end of the path, Yao Shishu had turned around to look at Wang Lin. Although she didn't speak, her intention was shown through her actions. Wang Lin wasn't one to drag his feet, and right now was not the time to turn on her, at least not until he learned everything about this place. He took one step and directly jumped over Yao Shishu, landing on the platform. The moment he landed on the platform, he closed his eyes. The life seal quickly appeared on his forehead and sealed his eyes shut. After doing all of this, he walked forward on the platform with the life seal sealing his eyes. This was an experiment for Wang Lin. He wanted to see if the golden symbol could pierce through the life seal. The golden symbol didn't penetrate it, but at the moment Wang Lin landed, the statue trembled. It opened its eyes and viciously gazed at Wang Lin before stepping toward him with a roar. The life seal immediately diffused from his eyes and covered his body. At the same time, Wang Lin took several steps back and circled around the statue like a coiling dragon. As the statue roared, it began chasing after Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression remained normal as his hand moved in the air, creating a burst of green light, and a simple restriction appeared in his hand. As he moved, he threw the restriction backwards. The restriction immediately grew to be few dozen feet large and blocked the pursuing statue. The statue's body didn't stop at all and directly smashed into the restriction. The restriction shattered like a mirror and scattered in all directions. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he revealed a look of interest. Although the restriction he had just used was simple, it was incorporeal. Unless it encountered another restriction, that shouldn't have happened. That statue's entire body is probably covered in restrictions. Trying to break it by brute force shouldn't be the right method. Wang Lin's hand moved, and rays of restrictions flew out of his hand and quickly closed in on the statue. The statue let out a roar as it jumped forward and threw a punch. The countless restrictions sent toward it all shattered, and a powerful force traveled through space toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin touched his bag of holding and took out the restriction flag. He shook the flag and the force coming toward him immediately entered the restriction flag and disappeared. Wang Lin's restriction flag had already reached 999 sets in these hundreds of years of him adding restrictions to it. However, what was strange to him was that divine retribution never arrived. These 999 sets of restrictions were all attack restrictions and were very powerful when used. However, as Wang Lin's cultivation level continued to increase, the power of the restriction flag was starting to become somewhat inadequate. Wang Lin was also thinking of ways to increase the restriction flag's power and increase the amount of restrictions to 9,999 sets. However, too many pure attack restrictions were required to increase the restrictions on the flag by 10-fold. Even with Wang Lin's knowledge, he didn't know that many restrictions. At this moment, a large amount of restrictions was flashing through his eyes. These restrictions continued to group and divide in his mind. His body was still moving very quickly, so the statue couldn't approach. Every time the statue was about to close in, Wang Lin would wave the restriction flag, causing large amounts of restriction gas to fly out, forming walls of restrictions to stop the statue. After the statue was blocked several times, it let out an earth-shattering roar and decided to stop chasing. It decided to stay in one place and stomp the ground. The entire platform trembled, and at the same time stone spikes shot out from the ground right around Wang Lin. Wang Lin was already prepared for the statue's possible spells. He formed a seal and quickly dodged the spike coming from below him. However, the spike was like a bamboo shoot and came in layers one after another. In almost an instant, the entire platform was covered in spikes, and aside from the center, everywhere else on the platform was covered in spikes. Wang Lin's body flew into the sky, and he floated in the air. The restriction deduction went even faster, and his eyes never left the statue. His eyes suddenly lit up, and at this moment, the shape of the statue changed greatly in his eyes. In his eyes, it wasn't a stone statue at all, but something composed entirely from restrictions. Countless restrictions stacked together to form this thing, and there was not a single place on it without a restriction. Just at the moment Wang Lin saw through the essence of the statue, all the spikes on the platform broke off at the roots from another stomp from the statue. They then flew into the air and shot at Wang Lin like a rain of spikes. With Wang Lin's cultivation, if he were to use magical treasures or one of the 3 killing spells to break the statue, it wouldn't have taken so much time. However, Wang Lin's goal wasn't to break through by force but completely understand it. In Wang Lin's eyes, those spikes that were flying towards him were also created by restrictions. As long as it was a restriction, he wasn't afraid of it at all. Wang Lin has been studying restrictions ever since he was at the core formation stage. Aside from those old monsters that have been alive for tens of thousands of years, normal people couldn't compare with Wang Lin at all in terms of his understanding of restrictions. His expression was neutral as he waved the restriction flag in his hand, and restriction gas flew out. These restrictions moved in a mysterious pattern, according to Wang Lin's command, and swept through the incoming spikes. The countless spikes were immediately and mercilessly deconstructed and merged into the restriction flag. After the restriction flag absorbed those restrictions, it immediately increased in power. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and immediately descended toward the platform. He pointed forward, and the restrictions from the restriction flag charged out like a whirlwind and immediately trapped the statue inside. Before Wang Lin's body landed, he turned into a cloud of green smoke and moved along with the restrictions. He immediately started circling the statue as his hand quickly moved, creating new restrictions that fused into the whirlwind of restrictions. From a distance, the statue looked to be surrounded by countless restrictions. No matter how it struggled and roared, the restrictions continued circling it. The restrictions hammered at the statue and entered through any cracks on its body. Wang Lin suddenly stopped moving and shouted 4 times, "Break! Break! Break! Break!" These 4 shouts caused the countless restrictions around the statue to all immediately swarm it. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the statue continued to change like crazy and was constantly collapsing. This statue was originally created from restrictions, and as the restrictions were being destroyed, the statue's body shrank. Feeling a sense of danger, the statue let out a fierce roar, and its third eye between its eyebrows immediately opened up, releasing a ray of golden light. With one flash, all of the restrictions Wang Lin had sent out were forced back and began to dissipate. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a mysterious light. At the moment the golden light appeared, he saw a golden symbol inside the statue's third eye. This symbol was created with 2 strokes. Seal. Wang Lin let out a roar and spat out some essence blood. Once the restrictions absorbed his blood, they immediately rushed forward and began to counter the golden light. After 2 breaths of time, the golden light in the statue's third eye dissipated, and at this moment, countless restrictions swarmed the statue. Its body trembled as the ruthless gaze disappeared from its eyes and was replaced with bleak grayness. Shortly after, its body collapsed, and as it collapsed, countless restrictions came out and rushed out in all directions. In an instant, black restriction gas covered the entire platform. Inside this black fog there was a flashing golden symbol that was about to disappear into the void. At this moment Wang Lin suddenly felt something in his heart, so he subconsciously raised his right index finger and drew 1 stroke. This stroke created the symbol that he saw sealed inside the first statue. After finishing the first stroke, Wang Lin didn't stop and immediately drew the second stroke. This created the golden symbol Wang Lin just saw inside the statue's third eye. The moment the symbol appeared, The symbol that flew out from the statue and was about to leave quickly turned around and flew toward Wang Lin. It moved faster than lightning and fused with the symbol Wang Lin just drew. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a mysterious light. His index finger didn't stop and once more drew another stroke. After he finished this stroke, it created the three-stroke symbol that was in Yao Xishui's eyes. International Children's Day brings tears and wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 556, Reversing the Heavens. All of this happened extremely fast. Yao Xishui was still stunned when the three-stroke symbol was completed. At the moment the symbol was completed, the celestial spiritual energy inside Wang Lin's body moved on its own and entered the symbol through his finger. If one just looked at the three-stroke symbol, they would think there was nothing unusual about it. But now that Wang Lin had drawn it stroke by stroke, he felt a sense of perfection from it as if it was some imprint from the heavens. Waves of golden light came from the symbol and lit up the surroundings. The black gas surrounding the platform slowly disappeared under this golden light. Yao Xishui revealed an extremely complex and shocking expression. She had been here several times before, but each time she wasted as little time as possible and used the blood seal her father gave her to not have to deal with them. In a way, she had gotten by through a loophole. Although she noticed those golden symbols and also tried to draw them, because she never destroyed the statue, she never absorbed the golden symbol like Wang Lin. As celestial spiritual energy entered the symbol, Wang Lin's index finger couldn't help but pause for a moment. Although his expression was normal, he had a very clear feeling that if he didn't draw the fourth stroke, the perfection of this symbol would be ruined and even collapse. Wang Lin wasn't able to draw the fourth stroke in thin air. His eyes lit up as he pointed at the symbol and suddenly turned around. He flicked the symbol, causing it fly directly at Yao Xishui. Yao Xishui's expression changed, and she quickly backed up. At the same time, she took out several blood jades and crashed them one by one before her. With a flash of blood-colored light, layers of blood covered the symbol. This happened extremely fast. The moment the blood touched the symbol, it dissipated, but it did cause the symbol to dim a bit. Yao Xishui continued to retreat as fragrant sweat covered her forehead. She continued to crush blood jades in her hand, and after 7 breaths of time the golden light was finally completely extinguished by the blood. The symbol disappeared inside the blood-colored light. Yao Xishui's expression was extremely gloomy. Just now she had used 10% of the celestial jades that was supposed to last her hundreds of years. At the moment the symbol was thrown at her, she felt like she was facing someone of her father's generation. Wang Lin! Yao Xishui crushed a blood jade. After the symbol disappeared, she charged directly at the platform toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was normal. At the moment Yao Xishui closed in, his eyes became cold as he touched his bag of holding to take out the celestial sword and held it before him. He calmly said, "Fellow cultivator Yao, that golden symbol appeared too suddenly for me to control. If you wish to fight me because of it, then I'll entertain you." Yao Xishui's expression was gloomy as a hint of killing intent appeared in her eyes, and she thought to herself, since this person has arrived here, he has no chance of survival unless he can break all the seals. If I were to fight with him here, it would be a waste of an opportunity. She coldly said, "Just this once." With that she jumped over Wang Lin and landed on the revered dragon path to the next platform. Wang Lin put away the celestial jade and leisurely followed. He looked at Yao Xishui before him and his heart was not calm. Just a 3-stroke symbol is already so powerful according to Yao Xishui. There is a total of 18 layers. If every layer has a symbol, that means there is a total of 18 symbols. What will the power of an 18-stroke symbol be? What exactly is this symbol? Could it be a celestial spell? Wang Lin took a deep breath and drew the 3-stroke symbol again. Unfortunately, the celestial spiritual energy inside his body didn't move, and the symbol disappeared as quickly as it appeared without any of the power from before. Wang Lin frowned slightly and began to ponder. Several days later, the third platform appeared. This time Yao Xishui charged directly at the platform. There was still the same statue on the platform. Instead of having a third eye, it now had a long sword in its hand. Yao Xishui didn't use the seal. This time she didn't hesitate to use her own abilities to battle the stone statue. Wang Lin coldly observed Yao Xishui. Her spells were all based on blood, and most of the time when she waved her hand, there would be a blood-colored light before the spell appeared. This battle with the statue had no suspense. With Yao Xishui's cultivation, the battle ended after half an incense stick of time. However, although the stone statue collapsed, no golden symbol flew out. Her expression became gloomy as she mercilessly stomped her foot, causing the broken stone statue to shatter to dust. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed, and he thought, could it be that only after breaking the restriction on the statue would the symbol fuse into one's body? Yao Xishui didn't even look at Wang Lin as she quickly jumped across the platform and continued to move forward. Time quickly passed, and in the blink of an eye, 1 month passed. During this 1 month of time, Wang Lin had it easy because Yao Xishui didn't give him any opportunities to act. After trying 2 times and not obtaining a golden symbol, she realized that her method was wrong. Thinking back to what Wang Lin did, she gained some understanding. She dreaded the golden symbols a lot, and to prevent Wang Lin from obtaining them, she decided to simply do all the work herself. She didn't break the statues but used the blood jades to seal them. This was the method she used the last 3 times she came here. On this day, after sealing the 11th statue and arriving before the platform containing the 12th statue, Yao Xishui's expression became serious. She looked at Wang Lin and said, "Fellow cultivator Wang, this 12th seal is very different from the previous one and requires the 2 of us to work together to break. This is why I asked you to come." Wang Lin nodded. The platform before them was very different from before. This platform was only half the size of the previous platforms, and there was no stone statue in the middle, only a giant stone door. Also, there was no other revered dragon path besides the one they were standing on. There were some blurry characters on the stone door. When overlapped with each other, it almost looked like a human face. Both Yao Xishui and Wang Lin landed on the platform. At the same time, the stone door suddenly opened, and a cold gust of wind immediately came out. The moment the cold wind appeared, Yao Xishui was covered by a blood-colored light. Wang Lin took several steps back as he touched his bag of holding and took out the restriction flag, which quickly covered his body. As the cold wind blew, crackling sounds came from the restrictions around Wang Lin as layer and layer of ice appeared around the restrictions. Soon, Wang Lin was surrounded by a thick layer of ice. Looking at Yao Xishui, she basically became an ice sculpture, only the ice sculpture was releasing a bright, red light. Quickly approaching 3,900 words, Leo fierce as a tiger. Wishing for sharing, for likes on the video, for channel followers. Chapter 557, Reversing the Heavens, Part 2. After the cold wind passed by, a white mist came out from the stone gate and immediately condensed into a person. This person was about 30 years old. His expression was cold, he was dressed in white, and his every movement held the aura of a celestial. After he appeared, he coldly looked at the ice sculptures Wang Lin and Yao Xishui were in. Although he didn't open his mouth, a sound still came out. Without a token, no one can enter Master S cave. The red light from the ice sculpture Yao Xishui was intensified as if there was a heat wave coming from inside it. Waves of white mist came from the ice sculpture, and in almost the blink of an eye, the ice melted and Yao Xishui walked out. "You have come here 3 times and used the spells of the Blood Lord. I went easy on you 3 times considering you were his descendant, and allowed you to use your spell to resurrect yourself, but you are ungrateful. This time, use your resurrection spell and scram out of here now before you have no chance." Although the middle-aged man's voice was calm, it gave off a powerful aura. At this moment, the ice sculpture Wang Lin was in gradually melted. His expression was calm as he coldly looked at the 2 of them. The middle-aged man's gaze was calm. He didn't even look at Wang Lin and only looked at Yao Xishui. Yao Xishui bowed and said, "Senior, since you knew my ancestor, why not let me pass? This cave has been deserted for many years, and it would be a waste to just leave it. Why not let Junior have it?" The middle-aged man withdrew his gaze and calmly said, "If you can withstand 3 strikes from my sword, then you re-qualified. Are the 2 of you together or separate?" Yao Xishui's eyes lit up and she said, "We will each take 1 strike and then take the last strike together." The middle-aged man's eyes were still calm as he raised his finger, causing a ray of golden light to quickly condense on his fingertip. "First person, come up. If you can withstand it, live. If not, die." Yao Xishui looked toward Wang Lin. "Fellow cultivator Wang." Wang Lin faintly smiled as he took 2 steps back and shook his head. Fellow cultivator Yao's words were false. I need time to consider. Yao Shishua looked at Wang Lin and said, what was false? This place doesn't have 18 seals. If there really are seals, then there are only 12. Past this door is the cave. Yao Shishua sneered. She already expected Wang Lin to change his mind at the last moment. She didn't panic at all and said, fellow cultivator Wang, there was something I forgot to tell you. I hope you don't mind, but telling you now isn't too late. After entering this place, obtaining the golden mark gives you the qualification to take the trial to enter the cave. However, once you gain the qualification, you must succeed or else you will die. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. Wang Lin's expression revealed a look of uncertainty before he looked at Yao Shishu with a look of helplessness and wryly smiled. Fellow cultivator Yao has the blood soul pill, so you naturally aren't worried about this. Good plan. The middle-aged man coldly looked at Yao Shishui and Wang Lin. He didn't show any sign of impatience. Yao Shishua said, if you can help me into the cave, you won't have to worry about your life. I'll also give you everything I promised before as well. Wang Lin pondered and said, since things are like this now, I will act, but I want to know what exactly this place is. Yao Shiyu smiled. This place was a cave left by a certain celestial. My father obtained this information from a demon emperor by accident. This cave has been deserted for many years, and many of the spells have disappeared with only this cave spirit still remaining. You need to be an ascendant cultivator to withstand all 3 rays of sword energy. Okay, I have told you everything I need to, so, fellow cultivator Wang, please act. Wang Lin said, in a serious tone, sword energy only an ascendant cultivator can withstand. I am only at the mid-stage of soul transformation. Fellow cultivator Yao really gives me a lot of credit. Yao Shishui's expression turned cold, and she coldly said, Wang Lin, if we can enter the cave, I have the blood soul pill, but you will die for sure. Just at this moment, the middle-aged man who was coldly looking at them suddenly said, that is right. If you two can enter the cave, then both of you will die. If you want to live, you have to successfully enter. Wang Lin pondered for a long time, before taking a step forward and saying, in a serious tone, Senior, please go. He raised his finger into the air, and the demonic ideals that were suppressed inside him suddenly surged out and immediately filled his body. A thick black mist came out from his body, and in almost an instant, his entire body was covered by this black mist. In Yao Shijuo's eyes, this black mist was demonic spiritual energy. The first thing he did was use the spell he used against the demon general, meaning that he is using his full strength. Exactly as I planned. Yao Shishu had already calculated this. In her eyes, Wang Lin's cultivation was only at the mid-stage of soul transformation. Even though she gave him enough celestial jades, he wouldn't have enough time to increase his cultivation level to the late stage of soul transformation in just 3 days. As a result, even if he withstands the sword energy with his mid-stage soul transformation cultivation, he will be seriously injured and will no longer be a threat. And she was confident she could withstand 2 strikes with the method her father gave her, and that would allow her to meet the requirements set by the cave spirit. The past several times she came here, she tried her best and was able to take 2 strikes, but the last strike was always fatal. The middle-aged man looked at Wang Lin, who was covered in black mist. He didn't say a word as he flicked his finger, and a ray of golden light shot out faster than lightning. Wang Lin let out a roar as all the demonic spiritual energy around him gathered at his index finger. In the blink of an eye, all of the demonic spiritual energy around him dissipated, and was now condensed on his right index finger. The golden light closed in and collided with his finger. The golden light was like an awl that directly split the demonic spiritual energy apart, but at the same time, the demonic spiritual energy continued to enter the golden light and continued to weaken it. Although the golden light looked normal, it was actually extremely powerful. It broke through the demonic spiritual energy and drilled into Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin coughed out a large mouthful of blood, and his body was thrown back by a powerful force. At the same time, there were sounds of things bursting and breaking coming out from his body. The platform wasn't very big, so Wang Lin's body was thrown off it, and he fell toward the empty space below. The middle-aged man lowered his head to look at where Wang Lin disappeared before raising his head and slowly saying, I'll consider that as you breaking the first strike. The second strike is next. With that, he raised his right hand and another ray of golden light condensed on his fingertip. Wang Lin's serious injury was not outside Xianxia's expectations. She didn't care about Wang Lin's life. What she cared about was how to enter the cave. What her father said about not getting into a bad relationship with Wang Lin was completely forgotten by her. In truth, in her heart, she thought that Wang Lin's status and cultivation were not enough to be her friend, even if there was something abnormal about him. She spread out her divine sense, and after finding no trace of Wang Lin, the last trace of her suspicion completely vanished. She was about to face the second sword energy from the cave spirit, so she quickly touched her bag of holding and took out a large amount of blood jades. Just at this moment, the middle-aged man flicked the ray of golden light and it charged out like a roaring golden dragon. The jades in Xianxia's hand quickly shattered, and a large amount of blood-colored light surrounded the golden dragon. The golden dragon immediately broke through the blood-colored light, and although it dimmed a bit, it was still fierce as it imprinted on Xianxia's chest. Xianxia's face immediately turned red, and she suppressed the blood in her mouth. She took 2 steps back and then looked at the middle-aged man. This was the 4th time she had arrived at the gate. She knew that the blood jades only worked once and would have no effect on the golden light the 2nd time. The first time she came here, she used the blood jades to break through all 11 platforms and thought she would succeed for sure. But the blood jades lost effect on the 2nd sword energy attack. I'll count that as you withstanding the 2nd strike. Now this is the 3rd strike. As the middle-aged man spoke, another ray of golden light gathered at his fingertip. He didn't give her any time to prepare, and the golden light flew out. Although Xianxia's complexion was ruddy, her heart was very excited. Before, when she reached the 3rd sword energy attack, she would be seriously injured and would have little celestial spiritual energy left, making it impossible for her to resist. But now that Wang Lin had successfully withstood the 1st attack, she still had a lot of celestial spiritual energy left. Although she had some small injuries, it wouldn't affect her using her spell. She was more confident than ever in her ability to withstand the 3rd sword energy. This cave is mine. Xianxia took a deep breath, and her hand began forming seals. When the golden light closed in, she coughed out a large mouthful of blood. This blood landed on the golden light before she began muttering chants, and her hands moved even faster. The golden light was covered by the fresh blood and released some sizzling sounds. The blood seemed to boil, and then turned into symbol that stuck to the golden light. The golden light suddenly dimmed, but the blood symbols on it also melted. The golden light charged out directly at Xianxia. Xianxia took a deep breath, and her hand stopped forming seals. Instead, her hand formed afterimages before stopping before her chest. Shortly after, a circular blood formation appeared in Xianxia's hand. Tears streaming long, wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 558, Reversing the Heavens, Part 3. At this moment, the golden light closed in and collided with the blood formation on her hand. A muffled bang could be heard as the blood formation collapsed and specks of golden light entered Xianxia's body. Xianxia wasn't able to control herself, so she coughed out a large mouthful of blood. Her celestial spiritual energy moved like crazy to battle the golden light that had entered her body. Once the golden light enters the body, it causes a lot of damage to the meridians in the flesh. Only by using celestial spiritual energy can it be stopped, as the two neutralize each other. If you and the man from earlier die, then that means you are eligible to enter the cave. The middle-aged man's voice was as calm as water. After Xianxia heard this, she sat down in the lotus position and focused all her attention on neutralizing the golden light inside her body. She was so focused on what was happening inside her body that she didn't notice the cold eyes that were looking at her. At the most critical moment of her resisting against the golden light, a shadow charged out like a meteor from the void below the platform. This figure was wearing a straw hat, moved as fast as lightning, and arrived on the platform in an instant. He didn't stop at all as he reached out, and Xianxia's bag of holding flew out. At the same time, his right hand reached out and pointed between Xianxia's eyebrows. At this moment, Xianxia suddenly opened her eyes and was filled with shock. She wanted to dodge, but she wasn't fast enough, so she watched helplessly as the finger landed between her eyebrows. A destructive force entered her through the spot between her eyebrows and moved through her meridians, destroying them along the way. At the same time, the small remaining amount of celestial spiritual energy in her body was scattered by this destructive force. Thanks to this and the force of the sword energy from the attack just now, Yao Xishui coughed out blood and was thrown back 30 feet. When she landed on the ground, a strand of gray gas appeared between her eyebrows, transformed into the life seal, and surrounded her entire body. Yao Xishui couldn't control the blood coming out of the corners of her mouth as she shouted, with all her might, "Wang Lin! Want to die? Not that easy." A cold voice came from the figure. The slender figure took off the straw hat. It was Wang Lin. The shock in Yao Xishui's eyes was extremely strong. Wang Lin's appearance was completely outside her expectations. Even if he was alive, he should be still been seriously injured, and not have appeared here like this. Also, she had spread out her divine sense earlier, and found no trace of him. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he looked at Yao Xishui. Everything that happened was secretly planned by him. From the moment he found out this was the last platform, he began planning. He risked using the demonic ideal to completely fool Yao Xishui into believing he was using his full strength. Then at the moment the sword energy entered his body, he shattered the celestial crystal inside his body without any hesitation. He spent 3 days back in the army camp converting 1/3 of the celestial jades he had gotten from Yao Xishui into a celestial crystal to create an unexpected circumstance. When the celestial crystal shattered, a large amount of celestial spiritual energy was released. Normally, when this much celestial spiritual energy was released, he would have to sit down to cultivate, and if he messed up even a bit, his meridians would be damaged by the large amount of celestial spiritual energy. However, when the sword energy entered his body, the celestial spiritual energy did a really good job of neutralizing the sword energy. Then he immediately acted according to his plan and put on the straw hat that Xianxia gave him before sneaking back to the platform. This straw hat contained a large amount of restrictions, and considering Xianxia was a mid-stage ascendant cultivator, his treasures were naturally very powerful. The effect of this straw hat was to hide divine sense, and Wang Lin had used it many times before to great effects. Unless the other person has reached the ascendant stage, there is no way for them to notice him. How could Yao Xishui know any of this? Wang Lin held Yao Xishui's bag of holding and calmly said, "Fellow cultivator Yao, we meet again." Although he was talking to Yao Xishui, his gaze swept toward the middle-aged man in front of the stone door. The middle-aged man's gaze was still calm. It was as if everything before him didn't exist. Yao Xishui gritted her teeth and said, "You read despicable." Wang Lin faintly smiled. There were many people that cursed him, but the winner was right and the loser was wrong. This was the rule of the cultivation world, and Wang Lin has always remembered it. He smiled. Fellow cultivator Yao gave me a fake pill and concealed the danger of entering here. I'm just getting a little revenge. There is no need to praise me so. If my father, the blood ancestor, finds out about this, you will be dead for sure, even if you are a disciple of the All-Seer. Also, I activated a blood soul pill before I came here. Yao Xishui's face was very pale without any trace of blood. Why would I kill you when you have blood soul pills to revive yourself? In order to use it, you must die first, so I'll use a spell to seal your entire body. Now that you have no celestial spiritual energy left inside your body, I want to see how you will die. Wang Lin let out a smile, and within that smile was a hint of darkness. Yao Xishui's face was pale and her body had no strength. It was as Wang Lin said, she had no celestial spiritual energy left in her body, and her meridians had been shattered. Normally, she would die with her body like this, but the seal on her body keeps sending out waves of life force to keep her alive, trapping her in this cycle of being between life and death. Her life and death were stuck in this cycle. I only need to seal you in a place so you can endure thousands of years of loneliness while being stuck between life and death, but unable to die. Even if you were to try to bite off your tongue to kill yourself, it wouldn't be possible with the seal on your forehead stopping you. I want to see how you will revive with the blood soul pill. Wang Lin's voice was calm, and when it landed in Yao Xishui's ears, it made her expression change greatly. As Wang Lin spoke those words, he couldn't help but think back to planet Suzaku when his cultivation was destroyed by the giant demon clan ancestor and the cultivator of Shuiyu. After he became a waste, he ended up being thrown into a water prison by bandits. There he found the skeleton of a female that had been sealed for an unknown amount of time. Wang Lin thought to himself, There is a cycle to everything in this world. He took a few steps forward and stood before Yao Shishui. Then his hand reached out toward her ample chest. Yao Shishu bit her lip and her eyes revealed thick killing intent and humiliation. This gaze meant nothing to Wang Lin as his hand reached in between her breasts. As he searched, he immediately felt the softness of her body. It has to be said that Yao Shishu was a rare beauty, and her status was also something that attracted people. She was the daughter of the blood ancestor, so normally she was high above everyone, but today she fell here. Wang Lin revealed a smile that was not a smile as he squeezed her soft chest, and when he took his hand back out, he was holding 3 bags of holding. The humiliation in her eyes was strong as she stared at Wang Lin, gnashing her teeth. She has cultivated for many years and kept her virgin body. She had never had such intimate contact with a man before. After putting away the bags of holding, he said, "Fellow cultivation Yao, how about we make a deal?" Yao Shishui stared at Wang Lin and didn't say a word. Wang Lin faintly smiled. "I intend to seal you until your lifespan runs out, but there is a 500-year time limit in this demon spirit land. So I'll ask you questions and take off 50 years for every question you answer. How about it?" Yao Shishui took a deep breath and pondered for a bit. Then she coldly asked, "How do I know if you speaking the truth?" Wang Lin chuckled and said, "You don't have to respond." Yao Shishu coldly looked at Wang Lin and snorted, "Ask. If you lie, although I might now know it now, I will in the future. At that point, don't blame me for not coming to release you from your seal. The first question, why are you so intent on entering this cave?" Wang Lin's question was ingenious, as it covered a lot of things. Yao Shishui turned her head to look at the stone door. The middle-aged man under the stone door still had a calm expression. "I just want to enter. There is no reason." "You brought this upon yourself." Wang Lin's eyes became cold and his hand formed seals, creating restrictions that fell on the ground to create a restriction circle. As time passed by, Wang Lin created more and more restrictions, and the restriction circle on the ground started giving off a black light. After doing all this, Wang Lin grabbed Yao Shishui and threw her into the circle. His right hand formed a seal and he softly said, "Seal!" With one word, the restriction circle quickly shrank and surrounded Yao Shishu. In almost an instant, it formed a restriction sphere. Wang Lin waved his hand, causing the ball to shrink and fly into his bag of holding. After doing all of this, Wang Lin turned toward the middle-aged man before the stone door and said, "Do I have the qualifications to enter?" The middle-aged man's expression was still calm as he slowly said, "The two of you withstood the 3 sword energy attacks together, so you naturally are qualified to enter. However, everything inside the cave has been sealed by Master, so if you can open the seal, it is useless." Wang Lin didn't rush in but pondered a bit and asked, "What cave is this?" "Master's cave." "Who is your master?" "Master is master." "What do you mean, who is master?" Wang Lin looked at the middle-aged man. After pondering a bit, he asked, "What were the golden symbols from the 11 platforms before this?" The middle-aged man slowly said, "A guarding spell, but after Master sealed the cave, there was no longer a central control, so the guardians lost a lot of their power. Otherwise, the two of you wouldn't have been able to reach here." Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he asked, "If someone else can withstand 3 sword energy attacks while I am inside, will they also be allowed into the cave? If you can break a seal inside the cave, you will obtain the right to enter the cave. After that, the cave will automatically seal and not allow anyone else inside unless you are dead." Wang Lin asked again, "This cave has existed for countless years. Has anyone else entered here before?" "Yes, but they are all dead." "How do I leave this place?" "Break 1 seal and you will be able to leave." Wang Lin pondered. He knew that if he were to ask more, the cave spirit wouldn't really say more. After pondering a bit, he stopped asking questions and walked into the stone door. What appeared before Wang Lin, after entering the stone door, were groups of palaces much like the royal palace of a mortal king. He appeared right at the front door of a palace. A faint celestial spiritual energy surrounded the area. He took a deep breath and immediately felt refreshed. Then he took a step forward but immediately lowered his head to look at the ground. The ground was paved with green stones and was extremely flat. Wang Lin squatted down to touch the ground with his hand and his expression immediately turned strange. Celestial jade. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and he immediately found that the surrounding area was surrounded in ceiling restrictions. His divine sense withdrew at almost the instant he spread it out. All of the buildings here are made of celestial jade. Wang Lin was very sensitive to celestial jade, and now that everything before him was made of it, he couldn't help but take a deep breath. Unfortunately, there are very powerful seals on them all. Otherwise, I would have definitely dug all of them out. Wang Lin looked at the celestial jade road with a look of pity. There was a giant pill furnace about 100 feet before him. There were some holes the thickness of his arm on the pill furnace, and bursts of white smoke came out from them. Several hundred feet past the pill furnace was a 3-story loft. Wang Lin walked forward, stopped next to the pill furnace, and looked inside the holes. There was a puddle of water at the bottom of the furnace, and the white smoke was coming out from this puddle of water. I am not the first person to enter this place. Perhaps there were pills inside this pill furnace before, and they were taken by someone. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he looked at the pill furnace. There was a restriction seal on it, but it was in a broken state. It had obviously been broken by someone long ago. After carefully looking around, Wang Lin walked toward the loft. He stopped before the loft and looked at it. The loft was sealed, and there was even a seal on each of the 3 steps leading up to it. This is an all-in-one seal. Once the restriction activates, it can make everything inside and outside the loft into a restriction and seal the whole loft. This method of sealing was even very rare in ancient times. According to some of the books I've read, it is recorded that this method came from the celestial realm and is referred to as celestial restrictions. Wang Lin looked around and muttered, "This cave is filled with celestial restrictions. Could this really be the cave of a certain celestial?" While thinking about this, Wang Lin became even more cautious. Although the restrictions on the loft before him had already been broken by someone, he would only take a step after carefully checking his surroundings. The loft had 3 floors, and Wang Lin would only take a step up after careful observation. Although this took a lot of time, it allowed Wang Lin to clearly see through all the restrictions inside the loft. This loft was completely empty, not even a table or chair remained. If it wasn't for markings on the ground showing that there were chairs and tables before, Wang Lin wouldn't have thought that they were taken by someone. Wang Lin mocked himself. Even the chairs and tables in the cave of a celestial must not be normal, so it is within reason that they be taken. This 3-floor loft was completely empty. Wang Lin found absolutely nothing inside, and all the restrictions had already been broken. However, as he looked closer, he found that these restrictions weren't all broken by the same person. There were at least 3 different methods used. One of the methods used ancient restrictions and was extremely subtle. The restrictions broken this way would scatter into the form of a plum blossom. Wang Lin had seen this method before on some ancient records. It was called the 18 plum blossom restriction. A majority of the restrictions here were broken with this method. It was clearly done by the same person. This restriction was very famous in the ancient cultivation world, but it was something very few people could learn. Even disciples could only learn so much depending on their status. At most, a disciple could only learn up to 9 restrictions. Only the sect master could learn up to 18 restrictions. Just as he was about to leave, Wang Lin's eyes suddenly narrowed. He looked at the markings on the ground that showed that the tables and chairs were moved. The like button for the VIDEO is in danger. Urgently wishing for the like button for the VIDEO's aid. Chapter Reception Pavilion. There were some marks on the ground where the chairs and table used to be. These marks were created because the small spell that prevented dust from gathering was destroyed along with the seals in here. After carefully observing the entire loft, Wang Lin found a lot of information. First of all, 3 people had entered this loft before him. Of course, there was always a chance that someone else had entered only to find the remains of restrictions like he did. Among the 3 people, the first person to appear was the person who used the 18 plum blossom restrictions. That person must have been very arrogant and ordinary things didn't interest him. From Wang Lin's observation, everywhere that looked like valuables were placed had signs of the 18 plum blossom restrictions. After this person left, 2 more people came, and their methods were much less professional. The tables and chairs were taken by one of them. This deduction mainly came from the marks Wang Lin saw on the ground. There were some fine bits of sawdust on these gray marks, and if you didn't look carefully, you wouldn't notice them. Wang Lin squatted down, pinched the sawdust, and took a closer look. Breaking the restriction by force caused some damage to the table and chairs here. Wang Lin flicked the sawdust away and left the loft. There was a long corridor behind the loft with a celestial jade fence on the side, and on the other side of it was a dried-up pond. There were also a lot of remnants of restrictions that had been broken. In the pond, Wang Lin once more found the pattern of the 18 plum blossom restriction. Wang Lin carefully observed his surroundings as he walked through the corridor. Many of the fences around him showed signs of being broken. The deeper he went, the fewer restriction remnants he saw, and after walking 5 kilometers, he saw the end of the corridor. At the end of the corridor, it divided into 3 different paths. Wang Lin stopped at the intersection and carefully looked at the 3 paths. He needed to find which way the person who knew the 18 plum blossom restriction went. That person's restriction was too powerful, so if Wang Lin followed that person's trail, he wouldn't be able to find any treasure. That person was like a famous thief that picked up all the good things, while the later 2 were like robbers that took everything they could. However, their abilities were limited, so some good treasures would be left behind. After carefully looking at the 3 directions, Wang Lin walked a few dozen feet down each path before returning to the intersection. His eyes lit up and he charged down the right path. Although the scenery still looked the same after 1,000 feet, Wang Lin saw broken restrictions everywhere. These restrictions were all broken by force, and there were even some that were only broken halfway, meaning that that person gave up. Every time he encountered a half-broken restriction, he would stop and carefully observe it. He wasn't in a rush to break them and would move on after observing them. The path to the right continued to extend, and there was also a fence on the side. However, it was no longer a pond on the other side of the fence but a bamboo grove. As he carefully moved forward, Wang Lin suddenly stopped. The right foot he had lifted up slowly returned to its original position. He remained motionless, but there were flashes of restrictions in his eyes. There was a pavilion about 100 feet before him. In the pavilion there was a round table and 4 stools. There was also a jug with a few cups on the table. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed, and he revealed a look of caution and looked around vigilantly. The restrictions around the pavilion were intact without any sign of broken restrictions. There must be something about that wine jug on the table. I followed the last person who broke through by force until here, but it seems he was stopped by the restrictions here. Wang Lin pondered a bit and then took a few steps back. Restrictions flashed through his eyes as he carefully observed, and gradually his expression became more serious. So that's how it is. The restriction inside the pavilion has tens of thousands of different variations. If I can figure it out, then once I go within 100 feet of it, I will activate it. If someone tried to break through by force, with the tens of thousands of changes, it would be hard to retreat unless their cultivation was heaven-defying. In addition, the most important part is that the restriction at the pavilion is the center of all the surrounding restrictions and can activate everything around it. That is why the person who came before decided to give up on this. Although the restriction is powerful, if the person who could use the 18 plum blossom restriction came here, he would only need to waste some time to break through it. It looks like I chose the right direction. No one has gone past this point yet. Wang Lin took a deep breath and revealed a hint of excitement. After he came here, all he saw was the remains of restrictions broken by others. It was as if you had entered a mountain filled with treasure, only to find that the treasure was already cleaned out by someone else long ago. The way he saw it right now, this pavilion was a treasure-filled mountain. After suppressing the excitement in his heart, Wang Lin once more began observing the pavilion. He decided to simply sit down in the lotus position and began to study. The restrictions around the pavilion were like a dense series of webs. A normal person would see nothing, but a restriction master would see things very differently. It all depends on their experience with restrictions. If he wanted to break the restriction here, the first step was to observe. Wang Lin sat for 3 days, and in these 3 days, bloodlines appeared in his eyes, and he began to show signs of fatigue. I can only see about 3,000 changes. I still have a ways to go before breaking the formation. However, the current restriction is inactive, so a lot of the changes can be seen. As Wang Lin pondered, he suddenly raised his hand. A ray of celestial spiritual energy gathered on his finger and was flicked toward the pavilion. After flicking his finger, he didn't hesitate to quickly back up. He moved so fast that an afterimage was almost created. The moment the ray of celestial spiritual energy got within 100 feet of the pavilion, it immediately collapsed and dissipated into shiny specks of light. It was like throwing a drop of water into hot oil, as an explosion appeared within the 100 feet area. Once waves began to ripple, A crazy and oppressive force came from the feet area. Then the powerful force surged out and immediately expanded like crazy. If Wang Lin hadn't already been prepared and was extremely fast, he would have already been swallowed by this wave. Wang Lin only stopped after he was more than 1,000 feet away. Although he was retreating, his gaze was still locked to the pavilion, and right now his eyes lit up. There was no less than 10,000 changes in that restriction. Wang Lin silently sat down and continued to calculate. Time slowly ticked away, and in the blink of an eye, 1 month passed. During this month, Wang Lin tried several times to use celestial spiritual energy to activate the restriction to study it. He had a great harvest each time, and slowly gained some knowledge on the majority of the changes that occurred inside the pavilion. At the same time, during this 1 month, he never stopped his deductions. Right now his eyes were completely red and were about to leak out blood. During this 1 month, Wang Lin forgot everything. He had even forgotten he was inside someone else's cave. Right now, the only thing in his mind was breaking this restriction. The more he studied and the more he deducted, the bigger Wang Lin felt his harvest was. This restriction contained tens of thousands of changes, and as he studied it, his understanding of them deepened. Wang Lin learned about restrictions inside the land of ancient God, and the type of restrictions he learned were ancient restrictions. Then he found a cave on planet Suzaku, and accidentally ran into a lot of books. Add on a few hundred years of using them and fusing them, his understanding of restrictions was very broad. His mastery increased by learning more restrictions, and once he finished the 999 restriction flag, his mastery in restrictions reached a bottleneck. Anyone who studies restrictions will encounter many bottlenecks in their lifetime, and if they can break through, their study ends there. This bottleneck was invisible and was caused by many different factors. Wang Lin gained a lot during this month of research. His restriction skills increased greatly. The various changes in the restriction allowed him to unknowingly break past the bottleneck and walk down the grand road ahead of him. At this moment, he had a 40% chance of breaking this restriction. Although it was only 40%, it has to be said that people could study this restriction for thousands of years and only have 10 or 20% chance of breaking it. Only those old monsters that have lived for then tens of thousands of years with a lot of experience and knowledge would dare to say they had 40% chance of breaking it. If the person who controlled the 18 plum blossom restriction were to come, I'm afraid he would have more than 70% chance. Wang Lin pondered. He didn't move but continued to deduce. Another month passed. Although he hadn't mastered all the changes in the restriction, he was 50% confident he could break it. On this day, he stood up with a serious expression. Although his eyes were bloodshot, he was in good spirits. He immediately arrived 100 feet from the pavilion, and after calculating for a bit, he took a step forward. Wang Lin wasn't nervous at all for this first step. He was confident that this first step wouldn't cause anything to happen and wouldn't activate the restriction. After taking one step, there was no change in his surroundings. His expression was neutral as he took another step forward, which was immediately followed by another step. 3 steps was 10 feet, and he directly took 9 steps. He was extremely relaxed the whole time, like he was walking through his garden. Right now, nothing abnormal happened. He stopped after 9 steps and restrictions flashed in his eyes. He then looked at the pavilion 70 feet away from him. He pinched his fingers together as he calculated a bit, and then silently walked forward. This time he moved another 9 steps. He had already walked 60 feet. The distance of 60 feet wasn't long, but it took Wang Lin 2 months to calculate a safe path through these 60 feet. This was something not even those 10,000-year-old monsters could easily get past. The like button for the video has dropped to 5th place. Tears brimming and wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 55, Entering the Stage. 5. The discussion of what technique Wang Lin used also happened among the Hang Yu sect disciples. Wang Lin stood on the stage, unable to calm his excited heart. He was able to beat Zhou Peng down with his attraction technique 3 times, causing his confidence to grow. His gaze swept across the Xuan sect disciples like Zhou Peng did before and said, "Today's exchange is not over." Who was going to come up next from the Xuan sect? All of the Xuan sect disciples looked at each other. They all lowered their heads, unwilling to look at Wang Lin, just like how the Hang Yue sect acted before with Zhou Peng. All of the Hang Yu sect disciples forgot the title trash they gave Wang Lin. They all cheered and shouted, "Xuan Dao sect S trash. How coming none of you are coming out after seeing how strong our senior brother Wang is? You were all so arrogant before. How come none of you are coming out now? Where did all the drive you guys had before go? Quickly send someone up so our senior brother Wang can teach them a lesson, then we'll see if you guys will act cocky again. Lu Feng, you look so strong before. Come on out. Do you dare to fight with my senior brother? All that the Xuan Dao sect has left is trash. None of them dare to come out. Brother Wang is invincible. Li Shan, you sold us those stink bombs with bad intentions, but we all saw through it, especially senior brother Wang Lin. Have you learned your lesson? Did you guys all see? The Xuan Dao sect is so scared of brother Wang Lin that none of them dare to come out. Senior brother, I mocked you before, but I am here to apologize to you now, before everyone else. You are now my boss. If you tell me to go east, I definitely want to go west. The scene suddenly became more lively. All of the Hangyu sect disciples became excited and started to shout loudly. The earlier battles between the two sects were too depressing for them, but Wang Lin's performance gave them hope. By coincidence, the title of senior brother was given to Wang Lin. Elder Ouyang's face turned red, then white. He finally felt what Huang Long felt earlier. Then he finally said, "Yang Yi, you go!" A tall and thin youth reluctantly walked up. Before he got on the stage, a Xuan Dao sect disciple shouted, "Second senior brother, go! Go and give Wang Lin a." Before he even finished talking, he noticed all the other disciples were looking at him with strange expressions, especially Yang Yi, who gave him a hateful look. The look made him so scared, he didn't dare to finish that sentence. Yang Yi secretly cursed in his heart. This moron, Wang Lin, is so strong that he is able to beat senior brother with one move, yet old man Ouyang still made me come up. So shameful. And I don't know how many stink bombs that bastard Li Shan sold him either. That Li Shan, I'll have to teach him a lesson once we go back. While thinking that, he turned to Li Shan and shot him a fierce gaze. He then clasped his hands and respectfully said, "Brother Wang, I am Yang Yi. Brother is very handsome and has such high cultivation. You will definitely become famous in the cultivation country of Zhao. Having the chance to battle with brother is really a privilege." Wang Lin glanced at Yang Yi but didn't say a word. Yang Yi didn't feel embarrassed. He said, "Brother Wang, we are only here for a friendly exchange between the two sects. How about we fight by touch to determine the winner? If I can last 100 seconds, then it's my win." Just as he finished, he immediately regretted it and said, "No, 50 seconds. Actually, let S do 30 seconds, no let S go with 20 seconds. All of the Hangyu sect disciples finally decided that they must properly suck up to Wang Lin, or they just wouldn't feel safe. Get off the stage. You the Xuan Dao sect's second senior brother, yet you so shameless. Brother Wang, don't listen to him. Yang Yi, are you still a man? From 100 seconds to 20 seconds. Get off the stage and send in someone else. You are not worthy of fighting our senior brother. How could the Xuan Dao sect send out such a person? Simply too shameful." Wang Long's smile became wider. The more he looked at Wang Lin, the more he liked him. He turned to Sun Dazhu and said, "Junior brother Dazhu, this disciple of yours is very good." Sun Dazhu's body trembled. His body felt several pounds lighter. Since when did the sect head call him junior brother Dazhu with such intimacy? He proudly said, "That is true. I've had my eyes on Wang Lin from the moment he came into the sect. Hey, good thing no one fought with me for him. When I took him as my disciple, quite a few people even mocked me." Dao Shu's and the red-faced Elder S, along with a few other Elder S, faces turned red and were about to speak. However, Wang Long fiercely looked at them and said, "Junior brother Dazhu, you have done a great service for the Hangyu sect. Don't worry, your elder brother will deal with this matter for you." Sun Dazhu was talking proudly, but secretly he was even more shocked and his eyes contained a cold light. On the stage, Yang Yi didn't even have time to bother with what the other sect's disciples were saying. He was carefully examining Wang Lin. He was afraid that he wouldn't agree to his suggestion. Wang Lin looked at Yang Yi and said, "Okay." Yang Yi secretly became excited. He had always been a calm person. He was not arrogant like Zhou Peng. He thought, "Wang Lin, although your dragon capture hand is strong and I can compare to senior brother, I specialize in speed. Let's see if you can catch me in 20 seconds. It will surely be my win. He clasped his hands toward Wang Lin, then quickly took out a piece of white jade and crushed it. Suddenly, white light appeared around his body and increased his speed. He shot toward the side. He deliberately avoided Wang Lin. His objective wasn't to fight him, but to use his speed to waste time. Wang Lin revealed a mocking smile. His divine sense was far above Yang Yi's, and he was easily able to keep up with the speed. His attraction technique was sent out, and he slowly took out a stink bomb. The moment Yang Yi saw the stink bomb, his face changed greatly and he increased his speed. Li Shan stared dumbfoundedly at the stink bomb in Wang Lin's hand as he muttered to himself, "Martial Brother Wang, Elder Brother Wang, Grandpa Wang, please don't use it anymore. I have already angered Senior Brother. If I anger Second Senior Brother as well, my life will be over." Basically is you fight, but on a critical blow or something you don't hit them but stop by just before hitting them after breaking through their defenses. Forgot to mention, at the end of the month, wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 560, Deep Sleep. After 60 feet, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He didn't continue forward but took 3 steps back. Then he stepped to the side for 9 steps, took another 3 steps back, and then went straight ahead once more. He went in almost a small circle before arriving 30 feet away from the pavilion. His expression was calm, because all of this was within his deductions and all 10,000 changes were memorized in his heart. Every single step was something he had calculated countless times until he was finally sure. He could only walk so leisurely because he was very confident. Wang Lin knew that if he wasn't careful and took one wrong step, he would suffer powerful backlash. The first 60 feet weren't that bad, but the last 40 feet would be disastrous for him with his current cultivation. However, nothing was absolute, and there was always a path to safety within the restriction. If one could step onto that path in a moment of crisis, they would save their life. This was also something special about celestial restrictions. However, this path of safety was never set and was constantly moving within the restriction. During the past 2 months, aside from learning the changes of the restriction itself, Wang Lin also focused on deducing the position of the safe path. The reason he went in a circle from 60 to 70 feet was because of the change in the path of safety. He always kept himself only 1 step away from it. At this moment, he stood at 70 feet and concentrated on calculating for a moment. Then his body moved, and he directly crossed 10 feet in 1 step. After landing, Wang Lin immediately crossed another 10 feet, but at the moment he landed, his expression changed. Without any hesitation, he took half a step to the left, and at this moment, a black tornado suddenly appeared in the last 10 feet. This tornado appeared out of nowhere and released a violent force. There were also strands of black lightning moving within it. In almost an instant, this 10-foot area was covered in a destructive force. The violent wind surged through the area and lightning struck out mercilessly. This destructive force was something not even ascendant cultivators could withstand, much less Wang Lin. Especially the lightning. It moved like dragons that could destroy anything. Wang Lin's figure continued to move inside the hurricane, covering the 10-foot area while carefully threading between the lightning bolts. Every step he took was on the path of safety, and one misstep would end with his origin soul being extinguished. The step earlier wasn't a miscalculation, but for some reason, the restriction started to operate in reverse. After 10 breaths of time, the tornado disappeared as if it had never existed, and the black lightning disappeared along with it. Wang Lin's body moved in a flash and crossed the last 10 feet, landing in the pavilion. Although he had finally crossed the last 10 feet, his forehead was covered in sweat. At the moment he stepped into the pavilion, the area 100 feet around it lit up. It was a bright light that shined on the surrounding area, causing the scenery to immediately change. When Wang Lin looked into the pavilion, it was as if the clouds were spread apart, revealing an area with a fake mountain. There was grass everywhere, and a bamboo grove that connected with the bamboo grove that already existed. The change in scenery was as if one had come from death's door and entered another world. At the same time, a calm voice came from the void and landed in Wang Lin's ears. Breaking a restriction gives you the qualification to temporarily own this cave. As long as you don't die, no one else can enter. The moment this voice arrived, a ray of golden light flew in from the distance and stopped before Wang Lin. This was a crystal token. It was only the size of his finger, and it floated in the air and emitted a 7-colored light. This is the cave token. Hold this token and you can enter the cave. Wang Lin took a deep breath as he grabbed the small crystal token and looked at the pavilion. Every stone table and chair had restrictions protecting them and couldn't be casually touched. However, compared to the restriction covering the 100-foot area outside the pavilion, these restrictions were a lot weaker. Wang Lin didn't look at the table or chairs. His eyes focused on the wine jug on top of the round table. Although the restriction on the wine jug was exquisite, it was not difficult for Wang Lin to break. After deducing for a bit, his right hand pointed toward the jug, and a water-like ripple appeared 3 inches from it. Wang Lin's finger pointed at the water ripple, creating a wave of ripples. At the same time, he quickly raised his finger and shot out an illusionary restriction that landed on the water ripple. At this moment, the water ripple immediately started boiling and a vortex formed at the center. The vortex spun faster and faster and grew, creating a circular void. Wang Lin's right hand moved like lightning as he reached directly through the vortex, grabbed the jug, and took it back out in an instant. Then the water ripple disappeared and everything returned to normal. Wang Lin revealed an excited expression. The wine jug in his hand was heavy, so it was obviously not empty. He took a deep breath as he opened the lid, then a refreshing scent immediately filled the air. Wang Lin saw that at the bottom of the wine jug, there were 10 drops of wine. This wine jug is quite heavy, but it only has 10 drops of wine, however. This is wine from a celestial, so it can be normal. Wang Lin stared at the wine jug and began to struggle. Shortly after, he clenched his teeth, poured out a drop of wine, and immediately sucked it into his mouth. At the moment that drop of wine entered his body, Wang Lin's entire body suddenly turned bright red. A crazy amount of celestial spiritual energy suddenly filled his body in an instant. A tipsy feeling slowly appeared inside Wang Lin's body along with the celestial spiritual energy. The amount of celestial spiritual energy in his body increased rapidly as it moved through his meridians like a flood. Then a hot surge appeared inside his dantian and shot up through his body. At the same time, the tipsy feeling became even stronger. Wang Lin's eyes were no longer clear and became muddy. His body slowly leaned to the side, his head dropped, and he fell asleep. Time passed by, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. Wang Lin was asleep for this entire year, and all the while sounds of snoring could be heard coming from his mouth. Ever since Wang Lin began to cultivate, he rarely slept, and this was the longest sleep he had in the past several hundred years. Although he was sleeping, the celestial spiritual energy inside his body was rapidly increasing. This speed would even shock the ulcer if he were here to witness it. When the celestial spiritual energy in his body reached a certain point, the demon crystal in his dantian silently shattered and melted. Demonic spiritual energy suddenly filled his body, but it was immediately swallowed up by the celestial spiritual energy and became part of him. Strands of celestial spiritual energy came out from his body and diffused into the surrounding foot area. During this year of him sleeping, the celestial spiritual energy in the area became extremely dense. While Wang Lin slept, his right hand held the wine jug. This day, Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes and let out a burp filled with the smell of wine. His eyes were filled with some confusion as he subconsciously looked around, but the confusion immediately disappeared and was filled with clarity. He immediately stood up and revealed a look of vigilance. Then he carefully looked around, and he slowly frowned as he looked at the wine jug in his hand. He only remembered that after drinking 1 drop of wine, the celestial spiritual energy in his body increased, and then he lost control and fell asleep. Thinking of celestial spiritual energy, he immediately checked inside himself. After checking, his eyes revealed unimaginable shock. How long have I been asleep for? After Wang Lin began cultivating, it was very rare for him to be this shocked. The celestial spiritual energy inside my body has already far surpassed the peak of the late stage of soul transformation. I only need to comprehend my domain more to step into the life and death trial for reaching the ascendant stage. Wang Lin looked at wine jug in his hand with disbelief. What kind of wine is this? Wang Lin cautiously put the wine jug inside his bag of holding. Still feeling worried, he took it back out, placed layers of powerful restrictions on it, and then placed it back inside his bag of holding. I must completely clear this place out. At this moment, Wang Lin's interest in this place reached its peak. After the excitement, Wang Lin felt some fear. Luckily, my domain hasn't reached ascendant level yet. or else I would be begun trying to break through to the ascendant stage while asleep. I wouldn't have been able to take out the ascendant crystal Zhou Yi gave me, and if it failed I would have died too pitifully. Wang Lin pondered, but his eyes immediately lit up. With my current cultivation, no one at the soul transformation stage is a match for me. Now I only need my domain to reach ascendant level. Then I can find a secret place to reach the ascendant stage. Here is the most secretive place of all, so once my domain has a breakthrough, I'll come back here to reach the ascendant stage. Everything in this world really depends on fate. It was a lucky coincidence that I entered his place. If not, even if I had the celestial jades, it would have taken many years to reach this state. Is this what mortals call a fortuitous encounter? Wang Lin was in a good mood, because after sleeping for a year, he was in excellent condition. At this moment he looked around ready to break the restriction around him, when he suddenly thought of something. How long did I sleep for? If I slept for decades or even hundreds of years, then everything outside will have changed greatly. If that is truly the case, I would have been better off cultivating on my own. Wang Lin pondered a bit as he walked within the pavilion. His eyes suddenly narrowed and his gaze fell on the bamboo grove in the distance. A corner of a fence could be seen inside the bamboo grove. Although a majority of it was covered by bamboo, after carefully looking at it, Wang Lin was able to find some clues. Earlier I didn't notice, but there is another loft here. This looks like the courtyard of a mortal temple. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin didn't go check the temple. He took out the crystal token and his divine sense entered it. There were waves of light and his figure disappeared from the cave. I forgot to say, the latest 3 chapters are all 4,000-word major chapters. Is Leo that kind? So this is the moon god. Is it the like button for the video? Do you all also start the video? Chapter 561 Harvest. In a burst of light, Wang Lin appeared on the platform where the stone door was. The cave spirit was gone without a trace along with the stone door. If it wasn't for the fact that there were traces of blood that Yao Shishui had coughed out on the ground, he would have suspected that there was an error in the transfer. Wang Lin held the crystal token in his hand. Aside from the chant to enter and exit the cave, there was some information in it as well. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin's body shot out and quickly moved along the revered dragon path. He quickly moved past the 11 platforms. There was no change on these platforms, and the stone statues remained in Yao Shui's seals. After what happened in the cave, his cultivation level had increased to the peak of the late stage of soul transformation, so his speed had increased by a lot. He moved like a bolt of lightning and only took half a month of time to return to the first platform. This platform was completely empty, but at this moment, with his current cultivation and what he learned from breaking restrictions for 2 months, he noticed the transfer array that was left by the blood ancestor. Looking at the array, Wang Lin pondered a bit and then took out 4 bags of holding that all belonged to Yao Shishui. If it was before, Wang Lin would have had some difficulty opening these bags of holding with his mid-stage soul transformation cultivation. However, Wang Lin's cultivation had reached the peak of the late stage of soul transformation and was now even a bit higher than Yao Shishui's cultivation. With a thought, his right hand swiped past the 4 bags of holding, and a burst of blood-colored light came from the bags. This blood-colored light was extremely tenacious, and it resisted Wang Lin's divine sense. Wang Lin let out a cold snort, and the celestial spiritual energy in his body moved as well as his origin soul. With one squeeze, the blood-colored light around one of the bags immediately collapsed. Wang Lin didn't stop. He reached for another bag of holding. The blood-colored light resisted for 3 breaths of time before collapsing. Wang Lin wiped out the divine sense imprint on the 3rd bag just like the last 2. He was about to finish it all in one go and grab the last bag when his expression suddenly changed, and his right hand stopped 3 inches away from the 4th bag. His eyes became very serious as he slowly withdrew his right hand and carefully looked at the bag of holding. Earlier, when he obtained the bags of holding, his cultivation level wasn't high enough, but looking at it now he seemed to see some clues. There was a faint purple line within the last blood-colored light. It would be very difficult to notice it if one was not careful. It could only be found with divine sense and was completely invisible to the eyes. Although this bag of holding looks very normal, when I was about to erase it, I had this terrifying feeling. I'm afraid this bag doesn't have Yao Shishui's divine sense. Could it be her father, the blood ancestor? Wang Lin pondered. According to common sense, unless the bag has your own divine sense, You can open it without wiping the other divine sense out first. However, the blood ancestor's cultivation is heavenly, and he has cultivated for a long time. He might have found a way for his daughter to use his bag of holding without having to wipe out his divine sense. As a result, even if an outsider got this bag and were careless, they would immediately be killed by the divine sense on it. This blood ancestor sure is tricky. Wang Lin slowly withdrew his divine sense. Now that his divine sense was gone, the blood-colored light on the bag of holding immediately disappeared. Although Wang Lin hasn't seen the blood ancestor, after seeing how he had spread misinformation about the blood soul pill and the divine sense trap on the bag of holding, it was as if he had met the blood ancestor in person. While he felt great admiration for the blood ancestor, he also deeply dreaded him. After pondering for a while, Wang Lin carefully put the bag of holding away and placed his gaze on the other 3 bags. He spread out his divine sense and couldn't help but suck in a deep breath even with his strong mental fortitude. The first bag was filled with celestial jades. There were too many celestial jades to even estimate. Wang Lin roughly scanned it with his divine sense. There were at least 10 times more celestial jades than what she had given him so far. The amount of celestial jades needed to reach the ascendant stage is great, far more than the total amount needed before this point. The amount of celestial jades needed for every step after the ascendant stage must be unimaginable. If one doesn't have enough, their cultivation just stops. This before me is a large amount of easy money. Wang Lin revealed a faint smile as he put away this bag of holding, and his divine sense moved to the second bag. Looking inside the bag, his eyes immediately released a hint of excitement. The second bag of holding had no less than 1,000 blood-colored jades. During the time he spent with Xianxia, he developed strong feelings for the blood jades and also dreaded them very much. Once a jade is broken, the blood-colored light it releases has a very powerful sealing force. Aside from sealing, this blood-colored light can also act as a powerful protection spell. According to Wang Lin's analysis, this blood-colored light should also be able to attack, but it would be impossible to use it without the correct chant and method. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he touched the bag of holding, and a blood jade appeared in his hand. He pondered a bit before squeezing the jade until it shattered. A ray of blood-colored light immediately came out from the shattered jade and floated before Wang Lin. After checking it with his divine sense, the blood-colored light dissipated, and Wang Lin thought, I don't have the method to use the sealing function, so I can only use it to protect myself. However, with Xianxia in my hands, I can get everything. The third bag was filled with many different things. There were even female clothing as well as some perfumes, small jewelry, and even dolls. Wang Lin directly ignored those things as his divine sense searched the area. His eyes suddenly narrowed as he found more than 10 blood soul pills. These wax pills were neatly placed together. There were dim symbols on them, but they weren't flickering. Not all of the blood soul pills were placed together. One pill was placed in the corner of the bag. This pill wasn't too dim, and the symbols on it flickered slightly. Aside from the blood soul pill, there was also a compass on the side. Wang Lin's target was the compass. He touched the bag of holding and 2 items appeared in his hand. The compass and the blood soul pill that were placed in a corner. This Xianxia obviously couldn't have thought that she would be captured by me and have her bags taken by me, so the placement of the stuff inside the bag contains some information. There is an 80% chance that the blood soul pill placed on its own is real. As for the others, I assume they are all fake. In addition, aside from the blood jades, there are no magical treasures inside her 3 bags of holding. I assume things like magical treasures are all inside the bag with the blood ancestor's divine sense. Wang Lin looked at the blood soul pill for a while before putting it inside his bag of holding. As for the fake one Xianxia gave him, he took it out and placed it inside one of her bags. Then his eyes fell on the compass. This compass was completely blood red and was made from some unknown material. Holding it in his hand, he felt waves of coldness enter his body. Back then, Xianxia used this compass to enter this place. This compass must have some connection with the array here. Wang Lin's divine sense entered the compass and found Xianxia's divine sense imprint inside. Wang Lin let out a breath of relief. If this compass also had the blood ancestor's divine sense, he would had to find a way to modify the transfer array here to leave this place. There was a transfer array to leave this place inside the cave as well. Wang Lin learned of it from the crystal token. However, the transfer array was in the northeastern corner of the cave and was fairly far from where Wang Lin was located. With all the restrictions in the way, it would be a difficult trip to get there. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in this situation. Wang Lin easily wiped out Yao Xue's divine sense from the compass and replaced it with his own divine sense. He immediately found that there was a small formation inside the compass. The formation constantly changed as the pin on the compass moved, and hasn't stopped once. This compass indeed also has a formation. The transfer array outside and the formation inside the compass must sync up, or else it will have no effect. Wang Lin's divine sense probed the inside of the compass and studied it for a bit. While he couldn't completely see through it, he was able to find some clues. He used 3 days of time to change the formation inside the compass, then he changed the transfer array on the platform, causing the transfer array to become very different from before. Although Wang Lin didn't change much about the transfer array, he did change one key point. If anyone else besides him were to enter this place, the transfer array would immediately send them back. This continuous transfer would cause space to break open and that person would be dragged into the void. Just sending them into a spatial rift doesn't mean they will die, so I must add some extras. Wang Lin pondered a bit, and then began working on the transfer array. He had used 3 days to change the transfer array, but used 30 days to add countless restrictions to it. Not only was he not impatient while adding the restrictions, he felt rather happy. If someone were to really come through here, they would definitely be surprised. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as his divine sense entered the compass to activate it. Then a flash of blood-colored light surrounded Wang Lin's whole body, and after a few breaths of time, the blood-colored light disappeared and so did Wang Lin. There was a burst of blood-colored light on the ancient mountain 1,000 kilometers away from the army camp, and Wang Lin appeared. The glaring sunlight entered Wang Lin's eyes. He looked at the surroundings with a feeling like he was viewing it from another world. The faint outline of ancient Demon City didn't seem to change from when he left. Wang Lin took a deep breath as he turned into a ray of light and charged toward the army camp. His speed was much faster than before, so it didn't take long before he closed in on the army camp. Just at this moment, a powerful killing intent came out from the army camp and locked onto Wang Lin. It's been a long time since wishing for likes on the VIDEO. The little pig wishing for the like button for the VIDEO support. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter 562, The Power of Peak Soul Transformation. Incomer, stop. A roar came from within the army camp. This voice contained powerful killing intent. At the same time, a ray of black light came from the wall around the camp, creating a black mist-like protection barrier. Inside the army camp, 10,000 black-armored demon soldiers stood at the center. Before them was a burly fellow in black armor coldly looking outside the army camp. Sima Yan stood respectfully beside this burly man. From his expression, it could be seen that he was filled with respect toward the burly man. Aside from Sima Yan, there were 3 more people in black armor. From their clothes, it was clear that they were also commanders, and their expressions were equally as respectful. Wang Lin's body moved like meteor and didn't stop at all. When he got close to the black mist, he let out a snort, and the celestial spiritual energy inside his body spread out. The black mist before him immediately scattered, creating an opening for him, and he calmly stepped inside. The burly man in black armor coldly looked at Wang Lin as he waved his hand and shouted, "Anyone who dares to rush into the military camp will be killed without question." The 3 commanders behind him charged out without any hesitation. Sima Yan recognized Wang Lin, so he hesitated for a bit before clenching his teeth and charging out. Of the 4 commanders, 3 of them were equal to early-stage soul transformation cultivators, and one of them was the same as a mid-stage soul transformation cultivator. If it was before Wang Lin entered the cave, he could still win, but it would cause him some trouble and delay him quite a bit. This was mostly because the 4 of them had a lot of demonic spiritual energy. As they charged at him, their demonic spiritual energy took the form of 4 demonic beasts that made them even more fierce. But right now, Wang Lin's cultivation had reached the peak of the late stage of soul transformation, so he was currently standing at the top of soul transformation cultivators. When he saw the 4 of them rushing at him, his expression was completely calm. "Back down. Wang Lin stood still and only opened his mouth to say those two words. Although his voice was low, it contained the celestial spiritual energy of a peak late-stage soul transformation cultivator. The sound was like thunder echoing in the four commanders' ears. Only the commander, who was equal to a mid-stage soul transformation cultivator, was able to resist it, with only his expression changing. The other three were only equal to early-stage soul transformation cultivators, so the difference in cultivation levels was too great. Their faces turned pale, and their bodies trembled and involuntarily stopped. Although their cultivation could be compared to soul transformation cultivators, they were still too far below from Wang Lin's level. Wang Lin was now at the peak of the soul transformation stage. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he walked forward. Although his steps were slow, they were firm. The commander, whose cultivation was equal to that of mid-stage soul transformation cultivator, immediately took a step to the side, as he didn't dare to stop Wang Lin. As for the remaining three, they were all filled with shock, especially Sima Yan, who was the most shocked of them all, and he didn't dare to even look at Wang Lin. He felt he was very lucky back then. If he had known that Wang Lin had such cultivation, he would have never dared to provoke Wang Lin back then. But his heart immediately trembled as he thought about what happened to 13 in Hu Pao. He secretly cursed and felt regret. As Wang Lin stepped closer, all 10,000 demon soldiers dispersed to make a path. They all recognized Wang Lin, and the scenes from the past rushed into their hearts. Their complex feelings and fear for their mysterious former commander rose up in their hearts once more. Some of the demon soldiers here were new and had not seen Wang Lin before. Although they had doubts in their hearts, after seeing how even the Lord Commanders didn't dare to stop him, they all involuntarily retreated. In almost an instant, a long passage appeared before Wang Lin, and at the end of the passage was the burly man in black armor. His eyes were still cold, but right now there was an air of seriousness gathering around him. His eyes were cold, but Wang Lin's eyes were even colder. Wang Lin's entire body was like a piece of never-melting ice as he walked step by step toward the burly man in black armor. As he walked by, the black-armored demon soldiers close to him all took a step back, as they felt a suffocating feeling come from the bottom of their hearts. The serious aura around the burly man in black armor became even stronger as he let out a roar and took a step forward. This step caused his aura to immediately rush out. This aura was invisible, but all the surrounding demon soldiers felt it, causing them to involuntarily back up even more. Wang Lin's expression was still cold. He didn't pause the slightest and continued to walk forward step by step. The aura from the burly man in black armor dissipated the moment it landed on Wang Lin's body and was unable to affect Wang Lin at all. Wang Lin was able to see through the burly man's cultivation at one glance. The burly man's demonic spiritual energy was equal to that of a late-stage soul transformation cultivator that hadn't reached the peak of the late stage yet. Wang Lin's aura increased like crazy with every step he took. As he walked, frost began to appear on the ground and spread. The burly man in black armor was at a disadvantage when it came to their auras, so a suffocating feeling immediately appeared in his heart. He subconsciously wanted to take a step back, but he immediately forced himself to stop. He knew that if he were to retreat, he would lose his momentum and his enemy might take that chance to immediately attack. But if he didn't back down, that invisible pressure would continue to condense on him like crazy. He had only faced this kind of pressure when facing the demon general. Finally, when Wang Lin was only 20 steps from him, the burly man in black armor, whose forehead was covered in sweat, shouted, "Commander Wang, what do you intend to do?" Wang Lin calmly opened his mouth as he continued to step forward. "This is my military camp. What do you think I intend?" The burly man in black armor immediately felt an enormous pressure on his body, as if there were countless large mountains pressing down on him. He suppressed his urge to back up and shouted, "You have been missing for over a year, and the demon general has long ago stripped you of your rank as commander." 1 year, so it has only been 1 year. Wang Lin's heart felt a hint of relief, but his aura became even stronger. "Where are my 2 followers?" When Wang Lin entered the army camp, his divine sense spread out and didn't find 13 no Hu Pao. At this moment there were only around 10 steps between him and the burly man in black armor. Bursts of powerful aura came crashing down on the burly man like wild beasts. He suppressed his urge to take a step back, because as the chief commander, he couldn't allow a commander to outpressure him, or else his position would no longer be secure, even if this commander's cultivation was more powerful than his. Wang Lin immediately noticed that the burly man was reaching his limit, so he immediately sped up and took 7 steps in a row. The burly man immediately felt Wang Lin's aura increase like crazy in those 7 steps. It felt like countless mountains had just crashed down upon him. He could no longer resist this pressure and involuntarily took a step back. The burly man took 1 step back and his own pressure weakened. In reaction, Wang Lin's pressure immediately skyrocketed and reached a peak. Not good. The burly man's expression changed, and at the same time, Wang Lin's eyes became cold. He bolted forward like lightning and charged directly at the burly man in black armor. At this moment, his peak late-stage soul transformation cultivation quickly revealed itself. As the burly man backed up, his hands clenched into a fist and immediately threw a punch, causing a loud rumble, and the sound waves spread forward. At the same time, the demonic spiritual energy in his body surged out and immediately formed a black tortoise about 1,000 feet wide. This black tortoise was covered with countless spikes on its back and tail. As his tail swung around, it felt like it could cause space itself to shatter as black lines appeared in the air. Wang Lin stepped toward him through the air, moving as fast as lightning. His thumb lifted into the air as he used the finger of death. Now that his cultivation had reached the peak of the late stage of soul transformation, the power of his finger of death was several times more powerful. If it wasn't for the fact that the demon soldiers had already backed up, they would had their flesh and demonic spiritual energy absorbed by the finger of death. Even though they had backed away, some of their demonic spiritual energy was still absorbed by the finger of death. At this moment, waves of demonic spiritual energy gathered on Wang Lin's finger from the heavens and earth. Some of the demon soldiers that weren't familiar with Wang Lin were too close and they felt the blood in their bodies boiling. In the blink of an eye, the blood in their bodies turned into essence and flew out of their bodies. Luckily, their companions quickly pulled those who were frozen in place away, preventing a massacre. The heavens and earth changed colors from Wang Lin's finger of death, and the entire camp was now covered in darkness. The sound wave created from the punch the burly man threw out immediately collapsed. Wang Lin's thumb didn't pause for a moment as it pressed down with his body. At this moment, it was as everything within 1,000 feet had gathered on his finger. As the finger of death descended, the burly man in black armor had the illusion that he was fighting against the heavens. The burly man let out a roar and his body immediately fused with the black tortoise behind him. Now his eyes were filled with a demonic light. At this moment, Wang Lin finally encountered a native using a native demonic spell. At the moment the burly man fused with the black tortoise, it seemed to come to life as it let out a roar and its tail whipped toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes became cold and his finger of death pressed down on the black tortoise's tail. The tail immediately began to shatter inch by inch, and this began to affect the entire body. The difference between a peak late-stage soul transformation cultivator and a normal late-stage soul transformation cultivator was a huge gap that could not be easily crossed. Not to mention the fact that his spell was very powerful, the finger's strength was extremely close to the power of an ascendant cultivator. The black tortoise's body shattered and the burly man's armor cracked into pieces. He coughed out a mouthful of blood before being forced back several steps and kneeling down on one leg. The demonic spells sure have their own extraordinary powers. Wang Lin coldly looked at the burly man. If it had been a cultivator, their cultivation level would have fallen, but this didn't happen to the burly man. Although his injuries looked serious, his foundation wasn't hurt at all. Wang Lin's right hand reached behind him and Sima Yan's body immediately flew toward him and was caught by him. "Where are my followers?" Wang Lin's voice was like the cold winds of winter blowing into Sima Yan's ears. The year of the dragon is approaching. Leo's year is coming fast, fervently shouting for the like button for the VIDEO, wishing to be drowned in happiness by the likes for the VIDEO. Chapter Saving 13. Sima Yan's body trembled. This voice that entered his ears caused his entire body to become cold. "Half a year after you left, the two of them went missing. I don't know where they went." Wang Lin coldly looked at Sima Yan and no longer wasted time with him. His 2 fingers formed a sword and immediately pointed between Sima Yan's brows. He used the soul search spell once more. Sima Yan's body violently convulsed and blood came out of his orifices. His eyes bulged out like they were ready to explode. Wang Lin's divine sense continued to search through Sima Yan's mind. The memories of the past year continued to appear before Wang Lin. Half a year after he left, 13 and Hu Pao had a dispute. Hu Pao decided to not wait and return to the tribe, while 13 was determined to wait here for Wang Lin. Finally, Hu Pao left, but he wasn't successful in his departure. Sima Yan easily caught Hu Pao and used the excuse of him violating army regulations to waste his cultivation and threw him into the dark prison. 3 months later, Hu Pao mysteriously disappeared. The dark prison was very well guarded, so even Sima Yan didn't know how Hu Pao went missing. As for 13, he tried to help Hu Pao, but in the end he was not Sima Yan's match. He crushed all of 13's meridians and bones and was about to throw him into the dungeon to die like Hu Pao. However, the chief commander saw it and took 13 away. These various memories appeared inside Wang Lin's eyes. His eyes became even colder as he let out an angry laugh and repeated the word good 3 times. The coldness in his eyes became even stronger as he looked at Sima Yan's bulging eyes. He activated the celestial slaughter art, and then Sima Yan's body immediately began to wither. After several breaths of time, Sima Yan's body exploded with a bang and pieces of flesh fell all over the surrounding area. Strands of gray gas came out from some of the flesh and gathered between Wang Lin's fingers. The celestial slaughter art was very difficult to use, but this time Wang Lin successfully refined a life seal from Sima Yan in a moment of anger. After killing Sima Yan, Wang Lin looked at the burly man not far away from him. From Sima Yan's memories, it was him who took away 13, who was on the verge of death. Wang Lin took 1 step and arrived before the burly man. He coldly asked, "Where is 13? The burly man in black armor stared at Wang Lin. Then he pondered for a bit and said, "Is the person you are referring to the barbarian Sima Yan wasted half a year ago? If you are looking for him, then asking me is useless." The demon general set out in order to gather people with strong bodies. That barbarian had all his demonic spiritual energy gathered in his flesh and used a mysterious method to refine his body. I saw that he met the demon general's requirement, so I healed him and gifted him to the demon general. Commander Wang, if you have the ability you don't have show off here. Do you dare to ask the Lord Demon General yourself? You can rest assured I won't lie about matters relating to the Demon General. The burly man looked at Wang Lin and sneered. You saved 13 and then gave him to the Demon General. Your actions balanced each other out, so I won't kill you. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy as his body turned into a cloud of smoke that charged into the sky and then flew directly toward the Demon General's palace. The burly man said that in a moment of desperation. He was defeated by Wang Lin and didn't expect to live, but now he was startled. Raising his head, he looked at the green smoke Wang Lin turned into in the horizon. He hesitated for a bit and said, half a year ago, the Demon General went into closed-door cultivation and closed off all transfer arrays. If you want to enter, the only possible way is to break in. He touched his chest as he walked away. He was heavily injured and needed to return to his palace to recover. As Wang Lin flew through the sky as a cloud of green smoke, he spread out his divine sense and scanned the area. All of the transfer arrays inside ancient demon city that led to the Demon General's palace were closed. These arrays were closed from the other side and had nothing to do with the transfer arrays themselves. Unless the Demon General opened them from the other side himself, it would be impossible to use them. 13 and Hu Pao were brought here to ancient demon city by me, meaning I dragged them into this Wang Lin secretly side. Originally, when he left, he didn't expect to fall asleep inside the cave. Due to a series of circumstances, he hurt 13 and Hu Pao. In this world there are things that happen, and things that don't cultivators hope for longevity and to escape from fate, to dodge calamities and meet good fate. 13 and Hu Pao aren't close to me, and to break into the Demon General's palace for them means going against the Demon General and the Sky Demon country. I should be wary of danger and stay away from it. None of this seems to be worth it. However, I, Wang Lin, don't want to follow convention and to one day find the Tao of the heavens. I want to live without feeling I have wronged anyone. I am not a gentleman, a villain, an honest person, or a hypocrite, but there are some things in life that must be done for the sake of it. From this point of view, I am not suited to be a cultivator. However, there are certain things I have to do. If I don't save 13, what Tao am I chasing? Wang Lin looked up into the sky. His heart was set. There were 6 doors between the military camp and the demon generalist's palace. If he couldn't use the transfer array, then he would have to break through them one by one to get inside. The inside and outside of each of the 6 doors are well guarded, and the entire palace was surrounded by a formation that prevented teleportation. Wang Lin appeared outside the 6th door. The door was over 100 feet tall and was connected to the outer wall, which had restrictions constantly flickering along it. The moment Wang Lin appeared, there was a shout from a guard next to the door. "Incomer, stop and quickly leave. If you take another step, you will be killed without question." Wang Lin raised his head and his eyes became cold. He took a deep breath, touched his bag of holding, and the celestial sword immediately flew out. The sword circled his body and Shuliguo's roars kept coming out from the sword. The moment the celestial sword appeared, the guards outside the 6th door revealed killing intent in their eyes and stared at Wang Lin. Wang Lin took one step, causing the guards to immediately charge forth. They all launched their demonic spiritual energy to stop Wang Lin. Facing all these demon soldiers, Wang Lin didn't stop and walked forward step by step. The celestial sword sliced through the air around Wang Lin. Anyone that tried to stop Wang Lin had to get past the celestial sword. A series of miserable groans echoed the area as Wang Lin jumped on the celestial sword and charged directly at the door. He hadn't even stabilized himself when a ray of sword energy shot out and landed on the TAAH door. Boom! The 6th door shattered and countless fragments were blown back. Right now there were thousands of demon soldiers in the square between the 6th and TAH door. They were immediately forced to back up from the fragments of the TAH door. At the moment the 6th door shattered, Wang Lin walked in. "I want to meet the demon general." Although his voice was calm, there was a sense of majesty that slowly spread out. "Kill!" Roars filled with killing intent came from the mouths of thousands of demon soldiers. Their order was to kill anyone that dared to break in when the demon general was in closed-door cultivation. Wang Lin was calm as he faced thousands of demon soldiers, and his eyes became cold. He jumped off the celestial sword, then his hand formed a seal and he waved it. A strange wind suddenly appeared and formed a tornado in the square. It quickly moved across the square and forcibly created a path through the thousands of demon soldiers. Wang Lin stepped directly past the square and arrived before the TA door. He didn't stop at all. His hand formed a seal, the celestial spiritual energy in his body activated, and he pressed it on the TH door. With a bang, the 5th door exploded. The powerful impact caused the shattered pieces of the door to fly out in all directions like a powerful storm. Past the TAH door, tens of thousands of demon soldiers had already learned that someone was trying to break into the demon general's palace and rushed over. At the moment the TH door collapsed, more than 10,000 demon soldiers let out roars, and at the same time, their demonic spiritual energy unified in a mysterious way, creating a very oppressive mass of demonic spiritual energy. At the moment the 5th door shattered, this demonic spiritual energy shot out like crazy. Even with Wang Lin's cultivation, he had to back up a few steps to avoid it. At the same time he touched his bag of holding, and the 3 nameless sword sheaths from planet Suzaku flew out. Shortly after, 3 rays of sword energy flew out from the sword sheaths, like 3 angry dragons, and collided with the demonic spiritual energy. A series of explosions echoed throughout the area, making it feel like the entire ground was trembling. Wang Lin's body moved like lightning through the door with the celestial sword before him to make way. The tens of thousands of demon soldiers formed a wall of demonic spiritual energy to prevent Wang Lin from going farther. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he took out the restriction flag. With one shake, countless restrictions flew out like black dragons and circled around him. Borrowing the sword energy from the sword sheaths, the sword energy from the celestial sword, and the black restriction gas from the restriction flag, Wang Lin broke through all obstacles and continued forward. At this moment, the thousands of demon soldiers from the TH door rushed in from behind him and surrounded Wang Lin. "Lord Demon General, Wang Lin requests an audience." Wang Lin's voice slowly spread out. He believed that even if the demon general was in closed-door cultivation, he would still be able to hear him. But as time passed, the demon general didn't show any reaction. At this moment, Wang Lin was surrounded on all sides by demon soldiers. So far, he tried not to kill, but now he was forced to kill. Facing a siege, Wang Lin raised his thumb, and the finger of death showed its full power. The sky and earth changed colors, and every demon soldier within 1,000 feet trembled before their bodies withered. All of the flesh, blood, and demonic spiritual energy were sucked into Wang Lin's thumb. Wang Lin's body moved like lightning toward the TA door. At this moment there was no one who could make him pause for even half a second. In an instant, his thumb landed on the TH gate. The TH door collapsed with a bang, and at this moment an old figure stepped out from behind it. Powerful demonic spiritual energy came from this old figure. This demonic spiritual energy turned into a giant python and attempted to devour Wang Lin. At the same time, an old voice shouted, "Back down!" Wang Lin's thumb touched the python made of demonic spiritual energy. At this moment, Wang Lin was forced back one step, but the python let out a miserable cry, and its body collapsed inch by inch. After the python collapsed, the old figure trembled, let out a groan, and his body was forced back several steps before he stabilized himself. Wang Lin took a step and directly walked past the TH gate. Aside from the countless demon soldiers before him, there was also a white-haired old man. Wang Lin wasn't too unfamiliar with this old man. He was the same person that came to the military camp with the steward over a year ago. The old man's face was completely pale and revealed a look of disbelief. He had seen Wang Lin more than a year ago, and back then their cultivation levels were roughly the same. However, when they met again today, Wang Lin's cultivation level had increased by a huge amount. If it wasn't for the fact that he was borrowing the power of the demon soldiers, had opened all the seals in his body, and basically launched a sneak attack, Wang Lin wouldn't have even been forced back a single step. Wang Lin stepped into the area and used the power of the finger of death once more. The old man let out a roar as all the demonic spiritual energy in his body surged to summon another giant python. His body fused with the giant python, then it attempted to devour Wang Lin once more. Since Lord Demon General won't meet me, don't blame me for slaughtering my way through. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as the gray slaughter gas appeared between his fingers and quickly spread out. His eyes suddenly started glowing red. They contained a monstrous amount of killing intent. At this moment, Wang Lin used the celestial slaughter art without any restraint. The slaughter aura covered the heavens and earth. Wang Lin didn't fight the python, but jumped into the demon soldiers. Every time he moved his hand, a spell came out and demon soldiers died. Including all the demon soldiers from the TH and TH doors, tens of thousands of demon soldiers surrounded Wang Lin. Their demonic spiritual energy worked together to create formations. Once these formations were complete, they would immediately condense into either demonic beasts or demonic gas. There were series of explosions and collisions as the formations continued to attack Wang Lin. Facing these demon soldiers, Wang Lin understood that one person didn't have enough power to defy the heavens. Unless one's cultivation was heavenly, it would be very difficult to break out from these formations formed by tens of thousands of demon soldiers. He could kill one person, 10, 100, 1,000, or 10,000 people. But once he was finished killing, all his celestial spiritual energy would be exhausted. Wang Lin's magical treasures, celestial sword, half-moon blade, restriction flag, and sword sheaths were controlled by his divine sense to begin an endless slaughter. Compared to these magic treasures, the celestial slaughter art had the biggest advantage. Every time the celestial slaughter art killed someone, it would gain a bit of strength. Although maybe only 1 out of every 100 would condense gray gas, as more and more people were killed, the gap was narrowing. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with killing intent as he used various spells. However, there were too many demonic soldiers around him, and when their demonic spiritual energy merged, they could activate extremely powerful attacks. So even with Wang Lin's peak late-stage soul transformation cultivation, his celestial spiritual energy was being used up at a very quick pace. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and a large amount of celestial jades flew out and started circling him. He quickly sucked all of the celestial jades dry to recover the celestial spiritual energy in his body, and this cycle continued, causing him to use a large amount of celestial spiritual energy. Demonic finger. Wang Lin didn't activate the demonic ideal, but used his peak late-stage soul transformation cultivation to activate the second killing spell. The demonic spiritual energy in the air was quickly pushed away by the energy from the demonic finger. Wang Lin's finger pressed down like the god of death, and the demonic spiritual energy from his finger drilled into the demon soldiers, causing their bodies to explode. Bursts of blood-colored light covered the heavens and earth. Wang Lin rushed forward and carved a path through tens of thousands of demon soldiers and charged directly at the R&D gate. With one finger, the flesh and blood on the ground gathered to form a dragon made of blood. The dragon rushed toward where the demonic finger was pointing. The old man inside the python wanted to stop the blood dragon, but at this moment his body suddenly exploded. He died to the demonic finger. The blood dragon, created by the demonic finger, landed on the third door. After a series of loud rumbles, the third door collapsed. As the door collapsed, tens of thousands of demon soldiers charged out from the third gate. Along with them were 6 white-haired old men. The moment they appeared, they locked onto Wang Lin. Wang Lin let out a sigh. This was his limit with his cultivation. None of the 5 elders that came out were weaker than late-stage soul transformation cultivators. Adding on the tens of thousands of demon soldiers around him, Wang Lin knew that he had to use his final move if he wished to break through the second door. The ace killing spell Situnan taught him, the most powerful killing spell that has heaven-shattering power infinitely close to a low-quality celestial spell. The third killing spell, the demon spirit land being all about military power, is indeed true. If I had hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers at the core formation stage, then even an ascendant cultivator would lose. If I had millions of core formation demon soldiers, some commanders, and a general at the cultivation level of the chief commander, I could even battle against a late-stage ascendant cultivator. It would be the same if I had the power of a demon emperor with tens of millions of demon soldiers, some demon generals, and a few commanders. I wouldn't even be afraid of those that have stepped into the yin and yang stage. Wang Lin let out a sigh as he faced the tens of thousands of demon soldiers, and the 5 elders equal to late-stage soul transformation cultivators. He then raised his right pinky and slowly drew a circle. Underworld. Wang Lin softly said one word. The underworld finger, the killing spell of the 3 killing spells, was something infinitely close to a low-quality celestial spell. Even Situnan was very hesitant in teaching this to Wang Lin. With one finger, the sky suddenly darkened and lightning struck down. At the same time, the sky seemed to be opened by a giant pair of hands as a giant mountain and river painting appeared, covering the horizon. This underworld finger activated Wang Lin's domain. Countless strands of gray gas flew out from the scroll and condensed at an unimaginable speed into a second underworld finger. Wang Lin's hair moved without any wind. His eyes were filled with killing intent, and gray gas surrounded his body. He was connecting with the second underworld finger that was created from the life and death scroll. With one finger, the tens of thousands of demon soldiers surrounding Wang Lin all trembled as strands of gray gas came out from the tops of their heads and fused with the underworld finger from the life and death scroll. At the same time, Wang Lin rose into the air and fused together with that underworld finger. At this moment, the only thing left was that finger. A finger pointed at the underworld. After fusing with the underworld finger, Wang Lin suddenly charged out toward the second gate. Those 5 old men who had cultivation levels equal to late-stage soul transformation cultivators were shocked by the power of the underworld finger. But they clenched their teeth and activated the demonic spiritual energy in their bodies to block Wang Lin. However, they underestimated the power of the underworld finger. Back when Wang Lin was at the mid-stage of soul transformation, he was able to fight against Sun Tao, who was at the mid-stage of ascendant. Although he lost in the end, he gave Sun Tao a big shock. At this moment, Wang Lin's cultivation was at the peak of the late stage of soul transformation, so the underworld finger was enough to threaten ascendant cultivators. This was Wang Lin's true ace. With one finger, the 5 elders all coughed out blood. The 5 of them involuntarily backed up and weren't able to stop Wang Lin even half a step. Before Wang Lin even closed in, the second door was destroyed by the pressure of his underworld finger. There were no demon soldiers behind the second door, only one person. This person was very small, but he had eyes like lightning. At the moment the second door collapsed and Wang Lin's underworld finger closed in, he let out a roar. His hand formed seals like a cultivator, and the seals stacked up and then he pushed them forward. There was a sound like a storm sweeping past the area as Wang Lin's underworld finger stopped 3 inches from his hand. A small ball formed between Wang Lin's underworld finger and this person's hand. This ball was completely white with black lightning moving within it. The small person withstood for 3 breaths of time before being forced back and leaving 2 deep marks on the ground. He didn't move back by choice but was pushed back by Wang Lin's underworld finger. He had to back up, because if he continued to resist, he knew he wouldn't be able to withstand it. If he tried to block it by force, the only result would be his body exploding. He was pushed back more than 100 feet before he let out a roar and stopped himself. The underworld finger from Wang Lin was 3 inches away from him, and continued to suck away at his vitality like a vortex. "Commander Wang, I am the #1 chief commander under the Demon General. What exactly do you want?" "I want to meet the Demon General." Just as he finished speaking, a large amount of gray gas came out from the tens of thousands of demon soldiers behind him. The gray gas came from all directions and quickly entered his body. This was the power of the underworld finger. Large amounts of gray gas entered his body. Wang Lin knew in his heart that each strand was a life. With the gray gas inside his body, the power of the underworld finger reached its peak. The small person immediately felt the peak power of the underworld finger. His expression changed greatly as he continued to back up. This time he was pushed back to the first door, and with a loud bang, the first door collapsed. At the same time, the small person coughed out a mouthful of blood and was thrown aside. At this moment, a tall figure came out of the first door. He didn't talk at all and directly threw a punch at Wang Lin's underworld finger. In that instant, Wang Lin clearly felt the battle intent inside the punch. 10 collapse fist intent. The fist intent came crashing down like a flood. The first collapse, second collapse, third collapse in the blink of an eye. All 10 collapses of fist intent surged forth, one stronger than the last. 7th collapse, 8th collapse, 9th collapse. The endless amount of fist intent seemed to be fused with the heavens and earth as it came crashing down. The gray gas thickened, and the killing intent in Wang Lin's eyes reached a monstrous level. The 10th collapse. There was a loud bang. Then ripples appeared on the ground between Wang Lin and the figure and quickly spread out in all directions. It turned into something like a wave on the ocean and spread out for more than 5 kilometers. 6,000 words in a major chapter, wishing for sharing, for likes on the video. Chapter 1. Palm. Wang Lin immediately felt an unimaginable force coming at him. A series of cracking sounds came from the pinky with the underworld finger and the force spread across his body. Wang Lin's body was pushed back by this force, and 2 skid marks was created by him. He was forced back 30 feet before he took a step back and stopped himself. As the shock wave spread out, those demon soldiers that had their lives taken by the underworld finger turned to dust. In addition to all of this, every building within 5 kilometers collapsed. The collapsing bodies and buildings created an air blast that spread out very far. Only those several people that had cultivation equal to that of soul transformation cultivators or higher were able to survive in this storm. At the same time, the slaughter gas formed from the celestial slaughter art flew toward Wang Lin from all the pieces of scattered flesh. "What a powerful spell!" a low voice came from before Wang Lin. After the dust settled, the demon general's large figure was revealed. After he finished speaking, his body wobbled as he forced himself from being knocked backwards. The demonic spiritual energy inside his body moved like crazy to stop himself from being sent flying back. His eyes were like lightning as he stepped forward and crossed 30 feet in an instant. Then his palm reached out and hit the ground. This palm created a gust of wind, and the area within 5 kilometers seemed to have become an ocean. The entire sea let out a roar from the demon general's palm and charged toward Wang Lin like crazy. "Withstand my 100-wave demon sea, and then you are qualified to talk with me." Wang Lin's body backed up, and he immediately felt the change in demonic spiritual energy around him. Demonic spiritual energy was normally incorporeal, but this spell seemed to turn it into a real ocean. That palm caused the ocean to surge and crash down upon Wang Lin. Compared to the 10 collapses, this 100-wave demon sea was even more powerful. The intent contained inside it was even stronger than the fist intent in the 10th collapse punch. Facing the sea of demonic spiritual energy, Wang Lin suddenly had an idea flash into his mind. Back on planet Suzaku, there was a rumor that a powerful cultivator used a spell to make the sea into a mist, thus creating the Sea of Devil's unique appearance. When Wang Lin heard of it back then, although he was shocked, he more or less didn't believe it. However, today he personally saw the demon general turn the invisible demonic spiritual energy into a visible sea. Although this shocked him, it mostly made him think very deeply about this matter. As the demon sea surged, waves began to stack up on top of each other until there were 30 of them, and Wang Lin was focused on continuing to back up. Backing up didn't mean he had failed, it was him buying time to think of a way to break it. The 30 waves of the demon sea stacked together and chased after Wang Lin. Wang Lin's hands moved quickly, creating restrictions to prevent the waves from closing in. However, these restrictions were like thin paper before the waves. They quickly shattered and dissipated into specks of black light. As the waves became more fierce, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He was about to take out some blood jades from Yao Shishui's bag to help him resist when the golden symbol he absorbed from the second statue suddenly appeared in his head. This symbol suddenly imprinted in his mind. But Wang Lin ignored it and took out a large amount of blood jades. He crushed them and waves of bloodlight filled the area. This blood-colored light covered Wang Lin's entire body. At this moment, the 30 waves arrived and landed on the blood-colored light. There was a series of rumbles like angry waves hitting on a rock. The blood-colored light lasted for several breaths of time before immediately collapsing, and the waves closed in. As the waves closed in, the golden symbol in Wang Lin's mind became even clearer and more profound. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Having reached his current cultivation level meant that his entire body had been tempered by celestial spiritual energy, and he had full mastery over his mind. So random things shouldn't appear in his mind during battle. But at this moment, the golden symbol flashed violently in his mind. It seemed ready to break free and fly out from Wang Lin's mind. With the interference of the golden symbol, he couldn't think clearly. Even the movement of celestial spiritual energy inside his body was affected by the flashing golden symbol. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Wind does not come from an empty cave for no reason, and the symbol might not have appeared in his head for no reason. He decided to open his mind, and his hand sent out a restriction. The gray gas gathered before his body, and his right finger quickly swiped across it. With one stroke, the gray gas twisted and formed a symbol. After drawing the symbol, Wang Lin felt his mind become extremely clear, and he had the urge to release the power inside him. The moment the symbol appeared, the demon general's eyes narrowed. From his view, this symbol had no power, but if Wang Lin was using it at this critical moment, it couldn't be normal. Wang Lin's finger didn't stop. It moved once more over the symbol. With another stroke, he created a two-stroke symbol. The demon general's eyes became even more serious. When that symbol formed, he immediately felt like he was facing the heavens. Wang Lin's finger moved once more, and the three-stroke symbol was created. At this moment, the golden symbol in his mind melted into a golden force that fused with the three-stroke golden symbol. Just at this moment, a powerful force came from the symbol. This force was extremely powerful, and it caused the demon general's heart to tighten. He quickly increased the 30 waves into 60 waves and sent them forward. After a series of rumbles, the symbol met the 30 waves, causing the waves to collapse, but the symbol dimmed after doing so. The golden symbol then collided with the next 30 waves, and they canceled each other out. But just at this moment, 3 strands of gray gas appeared where the symbol disappeared. They pierced through the demon sea and charged directly at the demon general. The demon general's eyes narrowed, and he shouted, "Armor! Activate!" With one word, a curtain of demonic spiritual energy suddenly appeared 7 feet before him. The 3 strands of gray gas collided with the curtain and shook violently before being bounced back. Now they were slightly dimmer than before. The demon general's eyes lit up, then he laughed and took a step forward. What a powerful symbol spell. Wang Lin, I have indeed underestimated you. However, it seems the symbol has a lot more to it. How about you display it all and have a battle with me? Wang Lin coldly asked. Where is 13? We'll talk after we finish fighting. The demon general laughed, and his eyes lit up like a torch. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he backed up several steps and said, Once I use my final ace, you will die for sure. Oh? Then show it to me. If it can really kill me, I'll be satisfied. The demon general's eyes lit up as he created another 40 waves that crashed toward Wang Lin. If I were to kill you, I would have no way to stay in this sky demon country. Watch carefully, you will know yourself if you can withstand this blow. Wang Lin didn't try to take on the 40 waves. Instead, he flew hundreds of feet into the air and suddenly looked down. The demon general's eyes revealed a mysterious light, and with a thought, the 40 waves returned to him. Right now, the 40 waves moved around him like 40 dragons, and the current him was like a demonic sea god. Wang Lin floated in the air and closed his eyes. The demon general was far stronger than he thought. The 10 collapse punch was only one of the demon general spells. This 100-wave demon sea should be his true killing move. As for whether the demon general had any more hidden abilities, although Wang Lin was curious, he didn't want to find out. Although this person's cultivation was only at the peak of the late stage of soul transformation like Wang Lin's, his spells were far more powerful than Wang Lin's. Wang Lin had to admit that he was lacking in terms of spells. Even when using his treasures, he wasn't confident that he could win. This was the first time in hundreds of years that Wang Lin had faced someone who had the same cultivation level as him, and not only was he not confident that he could win, if he was just a bit careless, he would lose. Right now, he was also inside the Demon General City. His goal was to save 13, and if he suffered any injuries, the chance of the rescuing 13 would disappear. After Wang Lin learned he couldn't win, he had the idea of a trick. He floated in the air with his eyes closed and recalled the giant handprint he saw in the celestial realm. Back then, he spent a lot of time next to it to learn from it, and then later, he used it against Red Butterfly. However, that palm only had the shape and no power behind it. However, this spell was something no one could see through. After all, the moment it appears, its pressure is already at an unimaginable degree. That giant handprint slowly condensed in his mind, and his mentality changed to the way it was back when he was comprehending it. At this moment, his eyes suddenly opened up, and they showed an inexplicable color. With one gaze, he looked down on the ground and felt like he was looking over the entire world. As for the Demon General, he now looked like an ant. When the Demon General saw this gaze, his heart shook violently for the first time. This gaze is something I only feel when I look at the ancient demon in the temple. It is something not even the Demon Emperor possesses. The Demon General's body trembled, and the waves around him began to rotate out of control. Wang Lin reached out with his right hand and pressed down. This palm caused the sky to darken, and various mysterious forces gathered below Wang Lin and formed an incredibly large palm print. Then he pressed down his palm. Nearly 3,800 words, already quite long. Day by day people say it's short, look at others. All are 2,000 words a chapter. Leo is that long, wouldn't you cast a like for Leo's video? Chapter 565, The Ancestor Returns. The Demon General's body shook violently, and the waves around him began to surge like crazy. At this moment, everything before him was replaced by that giant palm print. The moment the palm print appeared, it fell from the sky. A feeling that he couldn't defeat it, couldn't resist it, and couldn't even dodge it appeared in his heart. It was as if this palm was the heavens and earth, this palm could destroy the world, and this palm could destroy all life. This feeling enveloped his heart, and his body trembled involuntarily. Although this palm had not yet fallen, the pressure it gave off destroyed his will to battle. The Demon General struggled to let out a roar. An unyielding feeling appeared in his heart. As he stared at the rapidly descending palm, battle intent erupted from inside him. Even if you are the heavens, I have to fight. Even if you can destroy the world, I must fight. Even if you can destroy all life, you can destroy the will to fight in my heart. His body suddenly stood straight, and he let out an unyielding roar. The waves around the Demon General turned into countless sea dragons that charged at the sky. When the palm print landed, the Demon General's battle intent reached its peak, but at this moment, a gentle breeze swept by him. The palm landed on the Demon General and caused no change. The Demon General was startled. This expression hadn't appeared on his face in a long time. What followed after was the uncontrollable lingering sense of fear that one gets after walking by death's door. You are already dead. Wang Lin landed from the air and looked at the Demon General. The Demon General's expression was complex as he looked at Wang Lin with doubt in his heart. What spell is this? He asked. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he calmly said, This spell has no name. The Demon General pondered for a bit, and then the waves around his body quickly disappeared. He looked at Wang Lin and said, You haven't fully learned this spell. Wang Lin's expression didn't change, and he only said one thing. You can try again. The Demon General was very uncertain. Although he suspected that Wang Lin could only perform the illusion of the attack without any real power behind it, it was only his suspicion. Even if he was 90% confident, just remembering the life and death feeling he had, he wasn't willing to risk it. Even thinking about that palm caused his heart to tremble. The demon general pondered for a long time before saying, "This is your ace." Wang Lin didn't explain. He knew that the more he explained, the more openings he would show. He knew that the spell was only an illusion and that anyone would be suspicious. However, suspicion will remain suspicion. It was something the demon general couldn't confirm. That's why he didn't speak and only calmly looked at the demon general. The demon general let out a sigh. He still didn't have the courage to risk that 90% doubt against that 10% truth. If it turned out to be real, he could die. It could be that even with his cultivation, if he were to use the spell's true power, he would suffer great backlash, maybe even to the point where his body can stand it and will collapse. So he only used an illusion. This was the only explanation that the demon general was willing to believe. His suspicion was still there, but it was forcibly suppressed by him. Wang Lin calmly asked, "Where is 13? I am refining a magical treasure that requires 18 people with strong bodies. I went into closed-door cultivation this time to refine the treasure. Your follower, 13, is later in line, so he hasn't been refined yet." Then the demon general slowly said, "I can give him back to you because you are my commander, but you killed tens of thousands of demon soldiers and destroyed 5 kilometers of the city. This matter I can let go so easily." Wang Lin's expression didn't change at all, and he said, "What do you want?" The demon general slowly said, "In 3 months I need to return to the capital of the Sky Demon Country for a debriefing. During that time, there will be a competition between the demon generals. If you promise to help me, I'll forget about the matter of you killing my demon soldiers. Otherwise, even if I die, you won't be able to gain a foothold in this country." At this moment, he considered Wang Lin his equal, not counting that illusionary palm. Just the fact that Wang Lin could break his 10 collapse punch and withstand the 100-wave demon sea caused Wang Lin's standing in the demon general's mind to skyrocket. This person has the same cultivation level as me. If it wasn't for the fact that his spells can compare to mine, this would be a difficult fight. Thinking about spells, he suddenly remembered that palm, and the idea that Wang Lin's spells weren't a match for his completely disappeared. Compared to that palm, my spells are nothing. I'm afraid only the demon emperor can match that spell. The demon general sighed. Wang Lin pondered a bit and nodded. The demon general let out a laugh. This laugh washed away all the unpleasantness from before. He smiled and said, "Good. From today onward, I, Left-Wing General Mo Lihai, name you as my only vice-general. If I can place in the top 3 among the demon generals, I'll ask the demon emperor to make you a general. At that time, you will have your own city and 100,000 demon soldiers at your command. You will definitely have a bigger advantage than majority of the foreigners." With that, his right hand reached out and created a black vortex. There were specks of light inside the vortex. The demon general casually pointed at one of the specks, causing it to collapse. Then 13's body flew out and landed before Wang Lin. His remark just now was to appease Wang Lin and use the position of general to make Wang Lin try his hardest. At the same time, he didn't use 13 to threaten him. This showed that he was treating Wang Lin with sincerity. However, this was only because he saw Wang Lin's strength. Feeling the power of that palm was what made him give Wang Lin such treatment. Although he suspected that palm, in the end, it was only suspicion, and as long as he could never confirm it, he wouldn't risk it. The more intelligent someone is, the more likely they are to think this way. Although the demon general had an open personality, having reached this level of cultivation meant that he wasn't dumb. In fact, he wouldn't lose to Wang Lin in cleverness. "I'll return in 3 months." Wang Lin's divine sense swept past 13. He found that 13 had no injuries and was only in a coma. He grabbed 13, took a step into the air, and disappeared over the horizon. The demon general had his hand behind his back as he looked into the sky and shook his head. The 5 people who were equal to late-stage soul transformation cultivators rushed in. When the 5 of them watched the fight earlier, their hearts were completely absorbed in it, and they weren't able to pull themselves out for a long time. The 5 of them only recovered now that Wang Lin had left. One of the 5 said, "Demon General, I believe that his palm strike is fake. If you were to act, you could definitely kill him. Even though I know that there is a 90% chance that that palm is a bluff, I can bring myself to risk it. Even if he only knows how to use an illusion, to make me hesitate so much means that he is indeed clever." To make it so what S real looks fake and what S fake looks real, this person can be underestimated. Also 1 year ago, against my 10 collapse punch, he had to use a secret technique to withstand up to 7 collapses. Now 1 year later, his cultivation has increased exponentially. He and Commander Yao disappeared around the same time, yet only he came back. So there's something hidden there, but it has nothing to do with me. The Demon General S words were directed at the 5 of them, but he was mostly muttering to himself. The 5 of them silently pondered as they all raised their heads to look at where Wang Lin went to. A very complex feeling involuntarily appeared in their hearts. Wang Lin floated in the air and spread out his divine sense. He found the dark prison inside the city and appeared before it with the unconscious 13. This dark prison was underground. Although there were restrictions placed all over the area, none of them besides the ones in the depths of the prison could stop Wang Lin. With Hu Pao's status, he couldn't have been locked away in the deeper part of the prison. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense, but was unable to find any trace of Hu Pao. He let out a sigh and then disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin moved extremely fast. Now that his cultivation had reached the peak of the late stage of soul transformation, his speed was several times faster than before. Even though he was carrying 13, it didn't take long for him to return to the soul refining tribe. Wang Lin appeared in a flash of light dozens of kilometers away from the soul refining tribe. Before him he could see the soul refining tribe not far off. Although the soul refining tribe didn't expand during this year, all of the members had been working hard on their cultivation. This 10-kilometer area was all under the control of the soul refining tribe. There was a thick, black fog in the sky above this kilometer area. Sometimes soul fragments moved within this black fog, and sometimes ghostly wails slowly echoed inside it. The people inside the soul refining tribe had gotten accustomed to the ghostly wails from the black fog. The louder the wails, the more soul fragments were inside. A majority of the people inside the soul refining tribe were cultivating right now. They all had their souls out as soul fragments flew out of the soul flags and into the black fog. At the same time, soul fragments returned from the black fog and went back inside the soul flags. After Wang Lin appeared, he took one step and charged toward the soul refining tribe like a bolt of lightning. He let out a smile, as he had already noticed more than 10 people at 10 different locations carefully observing the area. He was very familiar with these people. Their duty was to stand guard outside. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out, and within 50 kilometers, there were more than 100 people on guard. It didn't take long for Wang Lin to arrive about 1,000 feet away from the tribe. This was where he stopped. After he stopped, a powerful gust of wind followed him and blew toward the tribe. The moment he stopped, someone immediately saw Wang Lin. After a moment of shock, their eyes were filled with excitement. "Ancestor!" A shout filled with joy quickly awakened everyone from their cultivation. In almost an instant, all of the tribe members stood up. Ouyang Hua turned into a cloud of black mist as he charged through the tribe. He stopped about 10 feet before Wang Lin with a face full of excitement and respectfully said, "Welcome back, Ancestor." At the same time, all of the tribe members knelt down on one knee and said in a chorus, "Welcome back, Ancestor." The last day of June, wishing for the like button for the VIDEO. A sweep of the like button for the VIDEO each month. The June ticket expires tonight at 12. Chapter 566, Hu Pao, the Old Man, and the Armor. The Central Valley of the Soul Refining Tribe was an area that belonged solely to Wang Lin. Right now he was sitting inside the valley with 13 down on one knee before him. 13's eyes were filled with excitement. It has already been 3 days since Wang Lin returned to the tribe, and 13 had been awakened by him with a spell. After awakening, 13 immediately saw Wang Lin, and his heart was immediately filled with excitement. Wang Lin learned from 13 roughly what happened during this year of time. After talking about Hu Pao, Wang Lin let out a sigh. Hu Pao disappearing from the dark prison was very strange. With his peak late-stage soul transformation divine sense, he swept the whole city and didn't find a trace of Hu Pao. Hu Pao cultivated the soul refining technique that Wang Lin taught him, so in the end, the final control of the soul fragments belonged to Wang Lin. However, Wang Lin couldn't find a trace of the soul fragments refined by Hu Pao. If Hu Pao didn't die, then he must be in some mysterious place. There is no other reason why I can't find him. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before giving up on this matter regarding Hu Pao. He had already done his best. He raised his head to look at 13. One of the reasons he had brought Hu Pao and 13 to ancient Demon City was to test them. If the two passed his test, he would teach them new techniques. For Hu Pao, aside from soul refining, there was also soul extraction. However, this soul extraction spell required much more effort than soul refining. Although Wang Lin had modified it, he wouldn't casually teach it. As for 13, the original idea of giving 13 the ancient god tactic was immediately discarded. The ancient god tactic was something he could never teach. However, during this year, 13 had passed Wang Lin's test with flying colors. Wang Lin could feel that 13 would be completely loyal to him for at least several decades. On planet Suzaku, Wang Lin had a lot of interactions with the giant demon clan. When he killed the giant demon clan ancestor, he also obtained the giant demon clan ancestor's bag of holding. Aside from that drop of ancient god blood, there were also some jades in there. Among these jades, there was a record of a body cultivation method called the 9 cultivations of the Titan. Back then, Wang Lin only quickly looked at it and forgot about it. Now he looked at 13 as he touched his bag of holding, and a cyan jade appeared in his hand. Wang Lin scanned it with his divine sense and thought, "This is it!" The 9 cultivations of the Titan had a total of 9 levels and was a body refining technique. After memorizing all 9 chants, he wiped out the last 3 levels and threw it to 13. 13 caught the jade with excitement. His gratitude toward Wang Lin was already indescribable. He knelt down on the ground, kowtowed a few times, and said, "Ancestor, 13 will only listen to you for the rest of his life. Guard the soul-refining tribe well. Now go." Wang Lin waved his right hand, and a gentle breeze sent 13 out of the valley. Wang Lin sat by himself inside the valley. The sky was covered by the black fog. This black fog was formed by the 1 billion soul flag, and using it to nurture soul fragments had the best effect. I felt safe leaving the flag here when I was at ancient Demon City. However, the capital is too far away, so I can't leave the flag here. Wang Lin looked up at the black fog in the sky before closing his eyes and beginning to cultivate. At this moment, far to the west of the soul refining sect, almost halfway across the sky demon country, there was an endless desert. This place was known as a very fierce place in the demon spirit land. Rumor has it that countless years ago, this was an ancient battleground of the demon spirit land. Millions of kilometers of land were covered in corpses, and the ground was dyed dark red. Just one glance was enough to shock anyone's heart. Outside this ancient battleground, there was an invisible restriction that cut off everything from the outside world. At this moment, there was a young man sitting in this ancient battleground. Before him were more than 100 small flags. These flags moved without any wind and slowly circled around him. A strand of black mist surrounded his body, and the presence of this black mist caused a large amount of souls that were sleeping here to awaken. Every time a soul fragment awakened, a violent strand of black gas would charge out from the ground. It would spin with the black mist for a few laps before going inside one of the small flags. There was a black-robed old man 1,000 feet away from the young man. This person coldly looked at the young man, and after one incense stick of time, he said, "Okay, finish up." The young man nodded, then his hand formed a seal and all the small flags released a black glow and landed in his hand. At this moment, the young man opened his eyes. The moment he saw the old man, he immediately stood up and respectfully said, "Hu Pao greets benefactor." The old man nodded and said, "Very good. When the time comes that you can refine all the soul fragments in this ancient battleground with your soul refining skill, there is no way you won't be able to go in the demon spirit land." Hu Pao's face was filled with excitement as he said, "This is all because of benefactor. You saved my life, taught me spells, and brought me here to refine soul fragments. Hu Pao will forever remember those things." The old man's expression was still cold as he said, "If it wasn't for the fact that your spell is strange and is something I have never seen before, I wouldn't have saved you. In addition, your previous master returned to ancient Demon City, fought with the demon general, and saved 13. I was one step too late." Hu Pao revealed a complex expression and said, "If I can refine all the soul fragments here, the first thing I'll do is kill this Wang Lin." The old man looked at Hu Pao and said, "He did, after all, teach you the soul refining spell. Why do you insist on killing this person?" Hu Pao pondered a bit before he sneered. "Although he taught me the soul refining spell, he had ulterior motives. If not for Wang Lin angering Sima Yan, I wouldn't have been thrown into the dark prison. In the first few months in the dark prison, I had hopes for Wang Lin to come to save me. but as time passed by, that hope was destroyed. When I was being tortured, where was he? When I was being abused, where was he? In the end, all of my expectations for him to save me turned to hate. If it wasn't for him, how would have ended up like this? Luckily, Benefactor rescued me, and on that day when I woke up, I swore I would never be a slave again. The old man's cold face gradually revealed a hint of a smile as he said, "Good. To have such decisive thinking, no wonder you are someone who caught my attention." Then the old man turned around, took one step, and disappeared without a trace. Hu Pao clenched his fist as he looked into the distance and muttered to himself, 13 is too simple and is being cheated by Wang Lin. During those months in the dark prison, I realized that Wang Lin considers me and 13 disposable pawns. Wang Lin, one day when I use my soul flags and release tens of millions of soul fragments, I want to see your expression. I want to see how you will resist my tens of millions of soul fragments. Once I cultivate the world-destroying suppression method to the 4th level, I will have endless demonic spiritual energy. Wang Lin, Sima Yan, just you two wait. Hu Pao's eyes revealed thick killing intent. There was a pitch-black tower in the depths of this ancient battleground. This tower was dozens of feet tall, and there were rings of light around it. These rings seemed to be able to absorb all the light coming at it. From a distance, the tower seemed to have an air of majesty around it. The black-robed man's figure appeared outside the tower. He took a deep breath and stepped into the tower. At the top of the tower, he knelt down on both knees. Before him was a set of armor. This armor looked very old and was definitely not something from this era. If someone with discerning eyes were to see this, they would immediately recognize that this armor had some extraordinary history behind it. It was still fairly intact and was completely black. There were countless patterns engraved on it, and they were all clouds. These clouds were completely black, which gave off a strange feeling. From a distance, this set of armor looked like a person sitting cross-legged in the room and gave off an irresistible sense of majesty. Waves of black gas came out from the armor and filled the tower. 2 ghostly lights suddenly appeared inside the helmet like a pair of eyes, and its gaze fell on the old man. At this moment, the world outside trembled slightly as if a celestial spirit had descended. The old man took a deep breath and said, "Your subordinate has checked and found out that the demon emperor of the sky demon country, Scorpio, should have already made the last step 1,000 years ago, but he is forcibly suppressing it." The ghostly light inside the helmet flashed, and an invisible chill came out from the armor. The old man's body and mind trembled and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. After a long time, the ghostly light landed on the old man's eyes as if sending a message. After a few breaths of time, the ghostly light dissipated, and the armor returned to normal. The mysterious aura around the armor disappeared too. The old man's entire body was covered in sweat as he said, "Yes." After that, he stood up and respectfully left the highest floor of the tower. Then he returned to the 1st floor and sat down in the lotus position. This time he was clearly more relaxed. If this child, Hu Pao, can absorb a lot of soul fragments, then combining the mysterious nature of the soul refining technique and my alchemy skill, his cultivation can increase rapidly in a short period of time. Then I'll let him cultivate Master's momentary art to condense all his longevity and potential into just 1 hour of power, so he can become one of the demon guardians. This soul refining spell is very mysterious, but I feel like there is some flaw hidden within it. However, Master can't be awake for too long, so I can't waste his time on this small matter. If not for the fact that Hu Pao knows this mysterious soul refining spell, with his qualification and status, he wouldn't be qualified to become a demon guardian. If this experiment is successful, I'll have to go check out that soul refining tribe. In dreams, Leo sees his video standing in 3rd place on the popular charts. Hoping to garner more fan support, and looking for help from you all to climb even higher in the rankings this month, Chapter 567 question Yao Shishua the 2nd time. Inside the inner valley of the soul refining tribe, Wang Lin touched his bag of holding, and a ball of restrictions suddenly flew out. He sent out a seal at the ball of restrictions, and then it suddenly enlarged and opened like a flower blooming. Inside, Yao Shishua was sitting in the lotus position, and her face was deathly pale. The life seal placed on her forehead continued to flash. Every time it flashed, it would send a bit of life force into her body to prevent her from dying. Yao Shishua opened her eyes and gave Wang Lin a vicious stare. Her hatred for Wang Lin was endless. Wang Lin completely ignored Yao Shishua's gaze as he calmly said, "Fellow cultivator Yao, Have you considered my proposal from last time? Yao Shisui clenched her teeth. She couldn't feel the passage of time inside this restriction, which made a feeling of helplessness arise in her heart. Although it has only been a bit over a year on the outside, for her, it felt like an eternity. Wang Lin looked at Yao Shishu and softly said, "My patience has its limits, so I'll only give you 3 chances. This time you can choose not to answer again, but next time will be the 3rd time. If you still don't wish to answer, then we will never meet again." "Are you not afraid of my father hunting you down?" Yao Shishui clenched her first. Wang Lin faintly smiled and nodded. "I'm afraid. The blood ancestor's cultivation is far above mine. If I am hunted by him, I am afraid I won't even have the chance to escape with my low cultivation. However, I was forced into this situation. If it wasn't for you scheming against me, I would not have plotted against you. Everything has a cause and effect. If I let you go, I will still offend the blood ancestor. But if I keep you at hand, I might have a chance to live." Yao Shishui quickly said, "If you let me go, I'll swear to never tell my father about it, and the grudge between us will be cleared." Wang Lin carefully looked at Yao Shishu and said, "I don't believe you." "You?" Yao Shishu took a deep breath and said, "What do you want?" Wang Lin said, "Follow my rule, answer one of my questions, and I'll decrease the amount of time I seal you for by 50 years. Yao Shishu lowered her head. Her eyes showed signs of struggle. Wang Lin patiently looked at her. Half an incense stick of time later, she raised her head and coldly said, "Even if you seal me, with my father's ability, he will still find me. At that time, I'll personally see my father destroy your body, extract your soul, and lock it in the nether place. At that time, you will know what it means to be better off dead than alive." Wang Lin let out a sigh and said, "You wasted your second chance. I hope you will treasure the next time." With that, his eyes lit up, and he took a step forward. He arrived before Yao Shishu, grabbed her jaw, and with a little force, forced her little mouth open. Yao Shishu's face was completely pale. She wanted to struggle, but her body had no strength. Wang Lin revealed a smile that was not a smile as he inserted 2 fingers into Yao Shishu's mouth. When he withdrew his hand, there was a red needle between his fingers. You used trace amounts of essence from inside your body to form this needle. If given enough time, you might really be able to use this needle to block the life seal and die within this restriction. With that, Wang Lin crushed the needle, causing it to dissipate in a cloud of red mist. Yao Shishui's body trembled. Her gaze toward Wang Lin could no longer be described as vicious. Yao Shisui took a deep breath. Then a rare trace of clarity appeared in her eyes, and she softly said, "Wang Lin, if there is a day I escape, I'll use any means to torture you in the most cruel way." At this moment, it was as if there was an invisible force working on Yao Shishui's body. It was slowly condensing all her hatred for Wang Lin, and gradually changing it to break open the void. Wang Lin faintly smiled and said, "It looks like there are too few restrictions on your body." He waved his right hand, and with a gentle breeze, Yao Shishui's clothes were blown away, revealing her voluptuous body. Wang Lin carefully examined her body. Yao Shishui's eyes still maintained the clarity she had before, but Wang Lin could see that it was starting to dissipate. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as his right hand reached out and poked several places on her body. Every location he poked was a sensitive spot for Yao Shishu. Every time his finger landed, he sent a trace of celestial spiritual energy into her body. Yao Shishui's body slowly turned red, and the clarity in her eyes disappeared and was replaced by endless humiliation and hostility once more. Yao Shishui's malice had reached its limit, and she hysterically shrieked, "Wang Lin, you are despicable, shameless."
Yao Shu, will never forgive you."
Wang Lin let out a sigh of relief. This Yao Shishui's talent was indeed amazing. At that moment, she was going to turn her incredible hatred for him into a type of understanding. To enter the Tao through hatred, that was where that clarity from her eyes came from. If she was successful, then he wouldn't be able to seal her with just a life seal. That was why Wang Lin removed her clothes, stimulated her body with celestial spiritual energy until the clarity in her eyes disappeared, and destroyed the state she had just entered. Wang Lin softly said, "There are too few seals on you." His hands moved, creating countless restrictions that landed on Yao Shishui's body. Wang Lin's restrictions mercilessly created a cycle on her sensitive spots. As a result, that kind of stimulation from before would constantly be invading her body. This was the only way to keep her from regaining her clarity and have that kind of enlightenment like before. After doing all of this, Wang Lin pointed at her, and the restrictions that had opened up immediately began to close. They turned back into a ball again, and Wang Lin put it away inside his bag of holding. The blood ancestor's daughter is a problem. The only way to deal with her is to find a secret place to seal her. However, I must get all the secrets out of her first. If my cultivation reaches the ascendant stage, I can just use the soul search spell. If I were to use it now, a slight mistake might kill her and leave a lot of problems in the future. Time passed and more than 2 months quickly went by. There were only a few days until his promise with the demon general. On this day, Wang Lin walked out of the valley with Xianxia behind him. Wang Lin slowly said, "After I leave, dispatch hundreds of people to the surrounding tribes regardless of their size. Use any method necessary to integrate into the other tribes. Use the soul fragments to resist the various memory-wiping potions the tribes have. Once inside, begin teaching them the soul-refining spell so more people can learn them. As for the specifics, I'll let you arrange them yourself." Xianxia softly responded in agreement. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin took out a piece of jade. He handed it to Xianxia and said, "The soul-refining spell actually has 2 parts. The first part is soul-refining, and the second part is soul-extracting. This can be taught to anyone who isn't a core disciple. Remember it well." Xianxia took a deep breath as he accepted the jade with care. After reading it, he crushed it and said, in a serious tone, "Ancestor, I have memorized it and will not forget Ancestor's words. This spell will only be taught to the core disciples of the soul-refining tribe." Wang Lin nodded and his hand reached toward the sky. All of the black fog over the soul-refining tribe immediately gathered in his hand, forming a 30-foot-long flag. Then he quickly swallowed it with his origin soul. Then he took out several normal soul flags and threw them into the sky, creating a black fog to cover the sky once more. After doing all of this, Wang Lin took a step forward and immediately disappeared. A voice came from far away into Xianxia's ears. "When I return, I hope the tribe will have more than 1 million members." Ouyang knelt down on the ground and said in a serious voice, "I won't disappoint the ancestor." Although those words were for Wang Lin, who was now far away, it was more so a commitment to himself. Wang Lin moved through the sky, creating a streak of light, and charged directly toward ancient demon city. I wonder what kinds of dragons and tigers are hidden at the Sky Demon Country's capital. There will be more people from planet Tianyun as well. I wonder if I'll meet any of them on this trip to the capital. There are also those 10 or so people from the Dalu sword sect. If I meet any of them, I must capture one and question them about Zhou Yi's whereabouts. Wang Lin pondered, but his speed didn't slow down at all and he disappeared over the horizon. Demon General Mo Lihai was wearing a green shirt as he stood on top of the eastern gate of ancient demon city. Behind him were the chief commander and commanders. Mo Lihai looked into the distance and didn't say a word. After a long time, Mo Lihai withdrew his gaze and then turned around to carefully look at ancient demon city. In an instant, he saw the wreckage at the center of the city. Mo Lihai thought, "After I leave this time, I want come back, and another demon general will take over the city, so that wreckage has nothing to do with me. It is a pity that 13 was taken away by Wang Lin. I was only able to refine 17 of my 18 demon body techniques, however. If Wang Lin truly tries to help me this time, I am confident I can enter the top 3 in the Demon General competition. Then I'll obtain the qualification to enter the Demon Temple to cultivate, and once I come out, I'll be a Vice Commander-in-Chief." Mo Lihai took a deep breath. His eyes concentrated in the distance and he revealed a smile. This person is someone who go back on his word. Mo Lihai laughed and his voice spread out. "Brother Wang, I am here." Wang Lin appeared in the sky above the eastern gate. His eyes looked at the group before falling on Mo Lihai. "I made Brother Mo wait." Wang Lin smiled. "No problem. This trip is very important for me, so I'll be relying on Brother Wang." Mo Lihai took one step and appeared before Wang Lin. Wang Lin laughed. "No problem. It will take 3 transfer arrays to reach the capital, so Brother Wang, let us go." 2 rays of red light flew across ancient demon city and into the distance, leaving behind only thunderous echoes. "From yesterday until now, Leo has only slept for 2 hours. Can't take it anymore. Today there's only the first watch. Leo wants to catch up on sleep. After the salon ends, The missing chapters will be compensated. Chapter 568, Acquaintance. Sky Demon City. It is located in the northern part of the Sky Demon Country. Surrounding it are countless mountains intersecting with each other. If one looks from the sky, these mountains seem to form the shape of 9 dragons coiling around the city. The 9 dragon heads all point toward a secluded lake. It is called Dragon Lake. The holy symbol of the Sky Demon Country, the ancient demon temple, is inside this Dragon Lake. Dragon Lake is heavily guarded. Sky Demon City is in front of Dragon Lake. To be more accurate, this city is formed by 9 cities with similar sizes to ancient Demon City. The 9 cities make an 8 divinatory trigram with the royal palace at the center. There is a river around the royal palace with 8 bridges linking to each of the 8 cities. The royal palace is where the demon emperor lives and is filled with exquisite pavilions. The other 8 cities are also distinct and have their own styles. It is early morning, and the entire Sky Demon City is shrouded by a faint green mist that comes from the Dragon Mountain ranges. The demon emperor calls it dragon energy, and cultivating this energy can increase cultivation. The entire Sky Demon City is like a large monster. As the green mist slowly dissipates, the sounds of people waking up makes it look like the giant beast is slowly awakening as well. There are 18 transfer arrays outside of Sky Demon City, and they are guarded by demon soldiers year-round. Of these 18 transfer arrays, 8 of them are used by the civilians, such as merchants, to travel everywhere. The remaining 10 can only use by those with high status. There is a very clear distinction between the classes. The 14th transfer array is for the demon general's use only. Every time it actives, a demon general appears. A demon general is considered a powerhouse in Sky Demon City, one who controls a large amount of troops and amazing spells. At this moment, among the demon soldiers outside the TH transfer array, there was clearly a demon soldier whose armor had more lines than the others. This soldier loosened his shoulders and put down his weapon. Then he took off his helmet, sat on it, turned around and shouted, "Goo, come here and massage my shoulders." After he shouted, one of the soldiers quickly ran out. He put on a smart face as he quickly got behind the person and began to massage. He asked, "Captain, is my strength good?" The captain moved his shoulders and smiled. "Yes, pretty good. Among you brats, you have the best control of strength." "Captain, normally this transfer array barely opens once a month. Why has it opened so much recently? It seems like a lot of demon generals are rushing here." Ergu took his chance to ask the question that had been bothering him for a while. "Today my mood is good, so I'll tell you." As the captain said that, the guards all immediately closed in. Apparently they all wanted to know what was going on as well. "You guys are all new recruits from the last 100 years, so it is not strange you don't know about it. Every 300 years, there is a big competition between the demon generals, and the demon emperor personally attends it. The reward is sometimes demonic treasures or demonic spells. However, this time the competition has a completely different meaning. Because 200 years ago we suffered heavy losses against the Fire Demon Country, including 2 vice commander-in-chiefs. That is why the demon emperor will pick 2 new vice commander-in-chiefs in this competition." After this was said, all the surrounding demon soldiers' eyes widened and their faces were filled with shock. Although demon generals and vice commander-in-chiefs were only half a rank apart, the gap was almost impossible to cross. In the countless years that the Sky Demon Country has existed, there have only been 8 commander-in-chiefs and 8 vice commander-in-chiefs. While there have been hundreds of demon generals, a so-called vice commander-in-chief is not the commander-in-chief's assistant but the person next in line for the commander-in-chief position. Only the vice commander-in-chief can challenge the commander-in-chief for the position. In the Sky Demon Country, once the commander-in-chief dies, a vice commander-in-chief takes over. That is the first step to becoming a commander-in-chief. Become a vice commander-in-chief. Looking at the shock on the surrounding demon soldiers' faces, the captain felt very proud. He let out a cough and said, "That is why the previously proud demon generals all came here." With how important this matter is, even those that originally didn't intend to participate are all coming as well. The 14th transfer array we guard is for demon generals only. That is why it has been so busy for the past several days. The demon soldier massaging his shoulder said, "Captain, which Lord Demon General do you think will win?" This is not easy to say. For someone to become a demon general, they must have powerful spells. But even spells have differences in strength. I believe that Lord Mo Fei, who holds the city next to the Fire Demon Country, can enter the top 3. Also, there is the ancient demon city's Lord Mo Yahi. His cultivation is also considered high among demon generals. Just as the captain reached this point, his expression suddenly changed. He immediately stood up, and the helmet flew into the air and landed on his head. Then his hand reached out, and his weapon flew into his hand. He did this in almost an instant. The demon soldiers were all already accustomed to their captain's actions. Right now, even without his command, they were all standing straight and facing forward. Just at this moment, rings of light appeared above the transfer array, and there was a burst of demonic spiritual energy from it. Then two figures slowly appeared inside the transfer array, and just as they appeared, they each took a step forward. They both stepped out of the transfer array at the exact SME time. Molihai looked at the capital before him as he took a deep breath and said to the person behind him, "Brother Wang, it has been more than 30 years since I've ever returned to the capital." Wang Lin looked at the giant city before him. Although it was big, it was within Wang Lin's expectation. After all, this was the capital of Sky Demon Country. "Greetings, General Mo." Just as the two stepped out, the demon soldiers outside immediately greeted them. Molihai nodded slightly and smiled at Wang Lin. "Brother Wang, this way." With that, he took a step and quickly moved toward the western gate. Wang Lin quickly followed, and the two of them disappeared into the distance. After the two of them left, the captain let out a sigh of relief. The demon soldier next to him whispered, "Captain, who is that person the demon general brought with him?" During this time, many of the demon generals had brought strangers with them. The captain stared at the demon soldier and said, "The competition between the demon generals this time is very important to all the demon generals, so they would naturally seek aid. For this person to be chosen by General Mo, he must have something special about him, so you all best not think too much about it." He looked toward the direction where Wang Lin and Molihai went and thought, that person was recognized by Molihai and was brought along using this transfer array, so his cultivation must not be simple. Also, from how polite Molihai was to him, this person is definitely not simple. Molihai was a demon general, so the soldiers at the western gate were extremely respectful when they saw him. They led them into the city before respectfully going back to their post. Molihai looked at Wang Lin and sincerely said, "Brother Wang, the various forces in Sky Demon City are very messy, especially with all the demon generals gathering. It would be best for you to not live in the city and instead come with me to my mansion. How about it?" There were two cities connected to the western gate. The first was Xuan City, and the second was Hong City. Molihai said, "Sky Demon City has a total of 8 outer cities, and those 8 outer cities are split into inner and outer rings. Sky, Earth, Xuan, and Yellow are the 4 inner cities, while Universe, Eternity, Hong, and Desolate are the outer cities. The inner cities are for civilian court officials, and the outer cities are for military. There are also more differences based on one's status. I live in Hong City." Wang Lin pondered a bit and nodded. "I'll listen to Brother Mo." Molihai faintly smiled and nodded at Wang Lin. He then walked forward, and 1,000 feet before them was a fork in the road. The left route led to Xuan City and the right to Hong City. Wang Lin followed Molihai's guidance and walked through the city. This Hong City was very prosperous with many shops and people. The streets were very lively as people came and went. The road was very wide, but the crowds were all concentrated in the two sides, leaving an opening 1/3 the size of the road in the middle. Standing in the middle would allow you to see the road going far into the distance. Molihai saw Wang Lin's gaze fall on the opening, so he smiled and explained, "This road is a military road, so ordinary people are not allowed to walk there." Just at this moment, roars came from the military road in the distance, and soon, a group of black war horses quickly rushed over. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and found 19 horses in total. There was a black armored soldier sitting on each of them with cultivations roughly matching soul formation cultivators. The demonic spiritual energy from their bodies were all fused together in a mysterious way. There was demonic spiritual energy swirling in the sky above them, and it formed a vague shadow of a giant beast. The 19 of them charged directly at Wang Lin and Molihai. Wang Lin looked at Molihai and found that although Molihai's expression was serious, there was a hidden smile on his face. The 19 of them stopped about a dozen or so feet from them. Then they all got off their horses, took a step forward, kneeled down, and loudly said, "Greetings, General Mo." Molihai laughed. Then he waved his hand and said, "All of you, get up. This person is my good friend, Vice General Wang. In the future, when you see him, it is the same as meeting me." The 19 of them turned toward Wang Lin without any hesitation and said, "Greetings, Vice General Wang." Wang Lin nodded lightly. The voices of these people and the scene they created drew everyone's attention. Their faces were filled with shock and they retreated far away. "Brother Wang, follow me to my mansion. I'll have people prepare fine wine for us, so let's have a drink." Mo Liahi jumped onto one of the war horses. Wang Lin also jumped on a war horse and laughed. "Is it good wine?" "Of course it is good wine." Mo Lihai and Wang Lin looked at each other before laughing. Then the two of them rode off together, neither in front nor behind the other. The 19 people and remaining 17 war horses followed them. As the group of people moved along the military road, there were suddenly sounds of horses from the distance. Mo Lihai's expression sank, and instead of slowing down, he moved even faster. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He saw an acquaintance. Aimlessly wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 569, Chaos in the Capital. Prologue. As the sounds of horses approached from the military road before them, a team of more than 10 war horses charged toward them. There were 2 people in front of this group of war horses. One of them was wearing blue armor, and he had purple, flowing hair that revealed his demonic face. His face was so handsome that there was a demonic feel to it. However, there was a scar on the right side of his face that completely destroyed his overall appearance. The aura of beauty disappeared and was replaced by a vicious and evil aura. There was a person sitting on the war horse beside the man with the scar. His face was thin and pale, but his eyes were bright. When he saw Wang Lin riding on the war horse, his eyes revealed a mysterious light. The 2 groups of people didn't slow down at all and charged head-on toward each other. The 2 groups were like 2 demonic beasts mercilessly charging at each other. The evil person with the scar stared at Mo Lihai. In his eyes, no one other than Mo Lihai existed. At this moment, it seemed like the earth itself was trembling, and the 2 sides got closer and closer. Just at the moment they were about to collide, Mo Lihai let out a laugh, then his right hand formed a fist and he threw a punch. This punch moved like the roaring wind that could collapse everything into nothingness, and it flew directly at the evil-looking man. They could hear the sound barrier breaking before the punch even closed in on the evil-looking man, and a powerful fist intent appeared within this punch. The evil-looking man's expression didn't change. He raised his right hand and pointed forward with his index finger. Then he quickly pointed forward with his middle finger, and in a flash, he did the same with all 5 fingers. Then his 5 fingertips gathered together to form a cone and pointed forward together. A soft, muffled sound suddenly came from both of them. Then a ripple spread out from the 2 of them. The ripple, however, only spread out 30 feet and dissipated at the edge of the military road, so it didn't damage any buildings. The 2 of them had to have very good control of their strength to ensure the shockwave was as small as possible. The evil-looking man's body shifted as the war horse below him let out a painful wail, because all 4 of its legs were broken. Then the horse's body exploded, so the evil-looking man was forced to retreat 3 steps, and each of those 3 steps caused the ground to tremble. The person stared at Mo Lihai and said, 10 collapse fist intent. Mo Lihai's body also trembled, and he began to back up with his war horse as well. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he raised his right hand and pointed at Mo Lihai. Wang Lin's use of power was very intricate and was able to cancel out a lot of the force from Mo Lihai. Mo Lihai took a deep breath as he stabilized his body. He then got off the war horse unscathed, and the contest between the 2 of them had been decided. Mo Lihai smiled. The 6-fingered demon sword is only this much. The evil-looking man's gaze shifted from Mo Lihai and fell on Wang Lin. He said, in a serious tone, "What is your name, foreigner?" Wang Lin looked at this person and didn't speak. The evil-looking man frowned. At this moment, the thin person beside him softly said, "His name is Wang Lin." Mo Lihai's eyes narrowed as he looked at Wang Lin and the thin-looking man. The evil-looking man asked, "Oh, you guys know each other?" The thin-looking man looked at Wang Lin and slowly said, "He is my junior apprentice brother." "Long time no see, brother Sun Tao. It looks like you have to go into closed-door cultivation for several years to recover from your serious injury," said Wang Lin. His voice was calm, so it was impossible to know if he was happy or angry. At the moment he saw Sun Tao, he realized that Sun Tao was injured, and this was a serious injury that even affected Sun Tao's origin soul, although the injury had been forcibly suppressed. Sun Tao's cultivation had dropped from the mid-stage of ascendant to the peak of the late stage of soul transformation. Sun Tao took a careful look at Wang Lin, and then the shock in his heart slowly calmed down. When he first saw Wang Lin, he naturally discovered that Wang Lin's cultivation had jumped 2 steps from the mid-stage of soul transformation to the peak of the late stage. Sun Tao slowly said, "Junior brother Wang, it looks like you had a fortunate encounter. But you have to be careful in the Sky Demon City because of the people from the Dalu Sword sect. My injuries were caused by them." There was a hint of anger in his voice. This anger wasn't directed at Wang Lin but the Dalu Sword sect. Wang Lin pondered a bit before slapping his bag of holding and taking out a bottle of pills. Although these pills wouldn't have much effect on Sun Tao, they represented Wang Lin's goodwill. He tossed the pills at Sun Tao and then rode forward on his warhorse without saying a word. Mo Lihai looked profoundly at the two of them before leading his people around the evil-looking man and catching up to Wang Lin. The evil-looking man coldly looked at the backs of Mo Lihai and company and asked, "How is this person?" Sun Tao put away the pills, then he pondered a bit and said, "If I wasn't injured, I could kill him." Don't underestimate him. This Mo Lihai has a total of 3 powerful spells. The first spell is the 10 Collapse Fist Intent, the second is the 100 Wave Demon Sea, and the third spell is something the Demon Emperor personally taught him, so it is very powerful. The evil-looking man sighed and said, "If you weren't injured, I'd be 100% confident in winning this competition." Sun Tao pondered a bit. Shortly after he said, "If I get the materials, I can refine a heavenly cloud pill, which can restore my cultivation to the early stage of ascendant for a short period of time." The evil-looking man nodded and said, "Don't worry about materials, I have already sent people to gather them." Then he changed the topic and asked, "How is your junior apprentice brother?" Sun Tao revealed a complex look before letting out a sigh and saying, "Strong. Very strong." Even when his cultivation was not at the peak of the late stage of soul transformation and only at the mid-stage, it was best not to provoke him. The evil-looking man's eyes narrowed. He had interacted with Sun Tao for a long period of time, and this was the first time Sun Tao had ever evaluated someone like this. On the military road, Mo Lihai looked at Wang Lin and smiled. "Thanks, Brother Wang, for the help earlier. Otherwise, my warhorse would have turned into a pile of flesh and blood as well." Wang Lin shook his head. "That is but a small matter. Brother Mo doesn't have to thank me." Mo Lihai slowly said, "That person's name is Xianxia and his spell's power, the 6-fingered demon sword, is unpredictable. With your senior apprentice brother's help, he will be one of my main threats this time." They quickly moved along the military road, and after 1 incense stick of time they stopped before a mansion. Although this place wasn't big, it had everything that was needed. It even had fake mountains and water. It was quite elegant. Wang Lin was living in the southern building right across from the fake mountain. Mo Lihai arranged 2 sergeants to be under Wang Lin's control before leaving to meet the Demon Emperor. He spoke to Wang Lin before he left, and they agreed to drink together once he comes back. Wang Lin sat in the lotus position in his room. Aside from helping Mo Lihai, his other goal during this trip to the capital city was to get the position of Demon General. This place was the capital of Sky Demon Country, so experts were as common as clouds here. Only by making himself stand out among the others would it make it a lot easier for him to get the position of Demon General. Even Sun Tao's mid-stage ascendant cultivation was injured by someone and forced down to the peak of the late stage of soul transformation. He said that it was someone from the Dalu Sword sect. There are more than 10 people from the Dalu Sword sect who entered, unless multiple people ganged up on Sun Tao. There is no way for him to be this injured. After pondering for a long time, Wang Lin took a deep breath. The reason he gave Sun Tao the pills was to send a message of good faith. Although they had their differences here, they were still, after all, from the same sect. When facing the threat of the Dalu Sword sect, they couldn't fight against each other. After pondering for a long time, Wang Lin closed his eyes and began to cultivate. Mo Lihai returned at dusk, and his eyes were filled with joy. He chatted with Wang Lin over wine, and they talked about various spells. Mo Lihai also told Wang Lin about the spells of several other demon generals. Time quickly passed, and in the blink of an eye, Wang Lin had spent 4 days in the Mo mansion. He spent almost all his time converting demonic spiritual energy into celestial spiritual energy to make his foundation even more stable. Wang Lin didn't ask when the battle between the demon generals would start. He understood that when he is needed, Mo Lihai will ask for him. Therefore, Wang Lin was in no rush, and in addition to cultivation, he spent a lot of time pondering. What he was pondering about was the celestial slaughter art. After the slaughter in ancient demon city, Wang Lin's understanding of the celestial slaughter art became more profound. Wang Lin also spent the 3 months at the soul refining tribe like this. When he wasn't cultivating, he spent the rest of the time pondering about the celestial slaughter art. For him, a change in location wouldn't affect his mentality at all. Wang Lin's calmness caught the attention of the 2 sergeants assigned to him, and they gradually began to admire Wang Lin. In their view, for someone at Wang Lin's cultivation level, to continue to work so hard to cultivate, he would definitely become a demon general in the future. Mo Lihai was extremely busy during this period of time. He left early almost every day and returned late. He went to meet various commander-in-chiefs and vice-commander-in-chief as well as friendly demon generals to exchange information. He could feel that the entire Sky Demon City was like a keg of explosives that will explode when the competition between the demon generals begin. Wang Lin quietly stayed in the Mo mansion for 4 days, and after that, he stopped cultivating. He sat in the courtyard and his hands rapidly moved, forming seals. Each one of the seals contained the power of the celestial slaughter art. Wang Lin sat there for 7 days. At the start, the 2 sergeants calmly looked at Wang Lin from a distance, but soon the 2 started feeling a powerful frenzy of killing intent coming from inside their hearts. Their hearts trembled violently, and their eyes were bloodshot, revealing powerful killing intent. Their sanity was already gone. Just as this killing intent reached its limit and the 2 were about to explode, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes, and his eyes were filled with clarity. When the 2 of them saw Wang Lin's eyes, it was as if cold water had been poured on their heads, and they immediately sobered up. Although they sobered up, a large amount of the cultivation inside their bodies disappeared. The 2 of them were filled with fear and never dared to watch Wang Lin cultivate again. The celestial slaughter art takes the path of slaughter to create life seals. The amount of life I have taken is not small, but don't I have much of this slaughter aura? There must be a reason. Wang Lin pondered as he carefully recalled every time he successfully used the celestial slaughter art. Wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 56, Entering the Stage, 6. Unfortunately for him, his prayers didn't come true. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. Then his attraction technique formed a hand and caught Yang Yi. Then an stink bomb was tossed into the air. It flew in an arc and landed on Yang Yi's head. Yang Yi felt the space tighten around him, as if the air around him was sucked out, and a force was pressing him from all sides, making him unable to move. He could only stare as the stink bomb fell toward him. With a bang, Yang Yi was hit by the stink bomb. His entire face was black, and his body emitted a disgusting stench. He couldn't be bothered with his face being black or with the stench. His face was filled with horror. When he felt the squeezing force loosen a bit, he used all the power in his body to break free. His heart pounded as he thought, this dragon capture hand is too strong. No matter what. Fine, let's go all out. Wang Lin faintly smiled at Yang Yi and said, there are still more than 10 seconds left. You can continue. Yang Yi gritted his teeth and spat out a mouthful of red light. The red light grew large and turned into a long sword-shaped red light and flew toward Wang Lin with strong sword Q. Meanwhile, he moved again and threw out handfuls of talismans. The talismans all grew and activated techniques that rained down on Wang Lin. Wang Lin sneered. He activated his attraction technique and formed a hand. He waved it and destroyed all of the talismans in the air. He then created another hand and grabbed the red light. The red light dissipated and revealed its true form. A red flying sword. The flying sword was stopped in mid-air and continued to struggle. Wang Lin scanned the flying sword and found that it had a piece of divine sense inside, just like the stink bomb. He easily erased the divine sense left on it and used a bit more force with his attraction technique. With a cracking sound, the flying sword split in half and fell to the ground. Yang Yi's expression changed greatly and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. He took a few steps back and said, Brother Wang's ancient technique, the dragon capture hand, is very strong, but I don't admit defeat. What defeated me was not you, but your ancient technique. Wang Lin was stunned, but he let out a smile. ancient technique dragon capture hand? This is the first time I've heard of it. You don't have to deny it. Your dragon capture hand has already been seen through by my uncle master. Yang Yi walked down from the stage and all of the Xuan Dao sect disciples got out of the way. The smell on his body was simply too awful. Elder Ouyang's face reddened slightly. He coughed and stiffly said, Junior Wang Lin, the technique you use is really the dragon capture hand. These ancient techniques are very unpredictable and powerful. I've only ever heard of it in some old texts myself. I never thought that the Heng Yu sect still had a technique that has been lost for thousands of years. No less from a powerful sect from 500 years ago. As he kept speaking, even he himself began to believe it. Even though it was not the dragon capture hand, it must have been an ancient technique, or it would not have been so powerful. Wang Lin was dumbfounded. He had practiced this attraction technique for more than 20 years in the dream world, so its power would not be weak. This was only a small matter. What was important was that these fights made Wang Lin realize his current strength. Situ Nan said before that Wang Lin was at the half-circle of the spirit movement stage, which was the 14th layer of QI condensation in the cultivation country of Zhao. This meant that he was one step away from reaching the peak of QI condensation. As for why he felt like he was still at the R&D layer, even Situ Nan couldn't guess what was wrong. Wang Lin had once brought up what Brother Zhang said about cutting one's mortal ties, but with a face full of disdain, Situ Nan told him that there was no such thing. That was only a rumor spread by the juniors of these small cultivation countries. Cultivation was a heaven-defying act. These small things don't matter at all. He stated that in his home country, there was a cultivator at the spirit-severing stage, but he couldn't let go of his family ties, so he stayed home and enjoyed life with his family. And, in the end, he still reached spirit transformation after a number of years. This lifestyle becomes very dull after a long time. After all, a cultivator's lifespan is much longer than an average person's, so, to normal people. It looks like cultivators don't care about these things. Situ Nan finally concluded that this had something to do with the heaven-defying bead. Because Wang Lin cultivated so much in the heaven-defying bead's space, it caused a desynchronization between the dream space and the real world, so. While Wang Lin's true strength was at the TH layer, his body only showed that he was at the R&D layer. After a while, the desynchronization will be gone, so it was not a big deal. With the power of the 14th layer of QI condensation and more than 20 years of hard work on the attraction technique, no wonder its power would cause people to have crazy guesses. Huang Long narrowed his eyes and said to Wang Lin, is the technique you use really some ancient technique? He was currently not in the mood to find what the name of the technique was, but he wholeheartedly wanted to make the Xuan Dao sect lose face. Wang Lin shook his head and smiled. Sect head, the technique Junior used is clearly the attraction technique. As for the dragon capture hand, disciple has never heard of it before. Huang Long secretly praised Wang Lin for being smart. He looked toward the 3 Xuan Dao sect elders and laughed. Friend Ouyang, I can tell you that this technique is not the dragon capture hand, but the most basic technique of my Heng Yu sect, the attraction technique. Your disciples can even defend against the most basic technique of my Heng Yu sect, and you guys are making up this dragon capture hand to justify it. Elder Ouyang was pretty embarrassed, but on the surface, he couldn't back down. He retorted, Friend Huang Long, you don't have to deny it. I already saw through it. This is the dragon capture hand. Dao Shu let out a laugh and said to sect head Huang Long, Sect head, I think that name is pretty good. How about we change the attraction technique's name to the dragon capture hand? Huang Long's eyes lit up and gave Dao Shu a praising look. He said, good. From now on, my Heng Yu sect's attraction technique will be renamed to the dragon capture hand. I'd thank the Xuan Dao sect for the name. Elder Ouyang and the 2 other elders' faces were full of bitterness. They shook their heads in silence. Wang Lin stood on the stage, pondering. After the last 2 matches, he had gained great confidence in his strength, but the opponents were too weak to test his full power. Although his spiritual energy was at the same level as someone at the 14th layer of QI condensation, he was a bit short in terms of technique. He only had proficiency in the attraction technique. In order to test how strong he truly was, he suddenly said, Fellow senior brothers of the Xuan Dao sect, all of you can come up at once. Wishing for the like button for the VIDEO, hoping to double the likes on the video. In the meantime, everyone, throw your spare ones here. Chapter 570. Zither music. Scenes from the past flashed through Wang Lin's brain. This process was very slow. Wang Lin slowly sorted through his memories as he sat inside the courtyard. The memories of him successfully using the celestial slaughter art played slowly in his mind as he looked for similarities between them. After a long time, Wang Lin let out a sigh, after carefully looking through all the times he successfully created slaughter energy. It seemed like they all happened by chance and there was nothing in common between them. Although, if there is one thing on the day I killed Sima Yan, there was something strange at that moment. I acted out of anger and was able to create a strand of slaughter energy. Wang Lin's eyes lit up but then dimmed once more. However, this doesn't make any sense, because there were strands of slaughter energy created when I was completely calm. There was also some slaughter energy created from demon soldiers, but as to which specific soldiers they were, it is impossible to tell. Wang Lin pondered for a long time, but he still couldn't find anything, and his brows gradually furrowed. Cultivating the celestial slaughter art is one of the key reasons I entered this place. I learned this spell to use it against Tuo Sen. Tuo Sen is very strong, so I will need a lot to go against him now that I have the blood soul pills. I have a much better chance of surviving with these two combined. However, I only have a limited amount of blood soul pills, so my priority is still this celestial slaughter art. Wang Lin pondered. He had been cultivating the celestial slaughter art for several years now, and creating the first strand of slaughter energy meant that he had reached the first stage. However, in order to master this spell, the difficulty was too high. I feel like there are some mysteries about this celestial slaughter art, but the amount I control is too little to test. Wang Lin raised his right hand, and 5 strands of gray gas moved between his fingers. Only 5 strands, even counting the one sealing Yao Shisui, it is only 6 strands. Wang Lin let out a sigh. He still hasn't been able to see through the celestial slaughter art. He was still quite confused about how the slaughter energy was produced. He thought of many reasons, but each of those reasons only applied to one situation. It looks like I need to do a lot of tests and deductions to have a chance to understand the mysteries of the celestial slaughter art. Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and a killing intent emitted from his eyes. He pondered a little before spreading out his divine sense, and finding the 2 sergeants responsible for his living conditions behind the fake mountain. The 2 of them feared Wang Lin's spell from the bottom of their hearts, so they didn't dare to stay near Wang Lin. However, the Lord's order was something they had to follow, so they decided to guard the entrance to the courtyard, and didn't allow anyone to enter. Wang Lin's divine sense swept past the 2 sergeants and he sent out a divine message. Shortly after, the 2 sergeants walked into the courtyard. They stopped 3 feet from Wang Lin and respectfully said, "Greetings, Vice General Wang." Wang Lin calmly said, "I'm going out. The 2 of you lead the way." The 2 of them were startled, but they quickly nodded. Wang Lin immediately moved forward several feet. The 2 sergeants almost immediately followed, but one of them hesitated for a bit before respectfully asking, "Vice General Wang, should we prepare a war horse?" "No need." In a flash, Wang Lin moved around the fake mountain and left the courtyard. The 3 of them left the Mo Mansion with Wang Lin in front. The Mo Mansion was on the eastern corner of Hong City and was relatively quiet. He casually walked along the street. Wang Lin didn't walk very fast. He looked around and gradually made his way to the main street of Hong City. There was a river nearby along with many people, and shops filled the sides of the street. It was very lively. Bursts of noise slowly drifted over as men and women walked on the street. The clothing in Demon Spiritland was open-minded, especially the women's clothing. Not only were they colorful, but they revealed a large amount of skin and were very pleasing to the eyes. Everything before him caused Wang Lin's tense mood from the last few days to relax. He walked the streets as if he was immortal, and the celestial spiritual energy inside his body slowly hid itself like a river drying up. Along the way, Wang Lin would sometimes stop outside a shop. Sometimes he would enter, and sometimes he would just leave, but the amount of time he stayed was always very short. He was like a passerby as he slowly walked through this foreign city. Wang Lin's appearance wasn't handsome, but because he was a cultivator, he gave off a very refined temperament. As a result, the more open-minded women among the crowd would sometimes place their gazes on Wang Lin as they passed by. Wang Lin looked like a defenseless scholar with his white robe. As for the 2 sergeants behind him, in the view of the public, they looked like typical guards. However, There was still an aura about Wang Lin that was very different from this place, so there was no way for him to truly belong here. As a result, a faint feeling of sadness spread out from him. Among the pedestrians, there would be pairs of men and women talking and laughing with each other. Compared to them, Wang Lin's figure was very lonely. As he walked among the crowd, the surrounding noise seemed to be part of another world. The pairs of men and women seemed to belong in another time and space. Nothing before him had the slightest hint of familiarity or connection to him. An indefinable feeling appeared in Wang Lin's heart, and he let out a sigh. This road was very long, but he didn't want to continue walking down it anymore. The day was getting late, and just as he was ready to leave, the sound of a zither that was filled with a faint hint of sadness entered his ears. This faint sadness and zither music strangely fitted Wang Lin's mood very well and caused him to stop. Wang Lin slowly followed the sound of the zither. Not far away from the street was a river. This was one of the inner rivers of Sky Demon City. There were several boats on the river, and this zither music was coming from one of the boats. Wang Lin silently stood on the side of the river, listening to the zither being played. With his eyesight, he was able to see a woman playing the zither on the boat. This woman only revealed her back. Her back was like her zither music, revealing a faint feeling of sadness and loneliness. Not far away from her were a few young people laughing and drinking. The sound of the laughter was very out of place next to the zither music. Wang Lin quietly looked at the boat. As the zither music fell in his ears, he savored the sound and slowly found a sense of familiarity. At this moment, he remembered the peaceful valley back on planet Suzaku, his home with Li Muan. Wan Air's zither music from those peaceful days still accompanied Wang Lin. Wan Air's zither music also contained a hint of sadness, but the Wang Lin back then didn't understand it. This sadness was far too faint and ethereal. After Wan Air left, Wang Lin never heard that zither music again. Today, thanks to hearing the same zither music, the sadness in his heart slowly resurfaced. Before Li Muan left, Wang Lin's feeling for her had always been that he was moved and felt responsible for her hundreds of years of waiting. This isn't love. However, after Wan Air left, Wang Lin would unconsciously think of Li Muan sometimes. At those times, his heart hurt a lot. It was as if he entered a forest of loneliness. Inside this forest, the emotion that lay dormant in him slowly awakened. It was like a cup of bitter water inside Wang Lin's heart, creating ripples that won't easily disappear. He always remembered the panic in her eyes when they first meet. Even though this zither music was obviously fake, Wang Lin could still feel Wan Air slowly walking out from the void toward him and entering his arms. It was like back in the valley when he and Li Muan would silently watch the sunset waiting for sunrise. It was always after one lost something that they would want it most. It was also when one parted that they wanted to come back. During the years after Wan Air left, Wang Lin recalled her time and time again, making her more and more important. She was now engraved in his heart and would last until the end of time. The day was getting late, and before the sky was completely dark, a ray of starlight suddenly appeared in the sky. Too many unimaginable things happened in the demon spirit land. No one asked where the starlight or moonlight came from. That wasn't important. What was important was that this starlight, along with the zither music, had touched the memories Wang Lin had sealed away. The starlight imprinted in Wang Lin's eyes, and along with the zither music gradually drifting away, it caused a feeling to slowly condense in his heart. This was a feeling of loneliness, and it stayed in his heart for a long time. The zither music became softer and softer as Wang Lin raised his hand to touch between his eyebrows. It was as if he was touching Li Muan inside the heaven-defying beat, and he muttered, "Wan Air, we still meet once more, this is my promise to you." The boat slowly left, and the figure of that woman also disappeared. At the moment the music almost completely disappeared, the woman seemed to notice something and turned around. She looked at the riverside in the distance, but it was too dark to see. Still, in this darkness, she seemed to see a lonely figure slowly walking away. On the boat, the woman let out a sigh and began to move her hand as sad music played once more and filled the river. Although there was light on the boat, to her, everything was always dark, whether it was day or night. Her jade-like hand moved in the darkness, and the laughter that came from the boat was quickly shattered by her zither music. She sat at the bow of the boat, and there was no light in her eyes, but at this moment she was like a lotus flower blooming in the mud. However, this was a bloom that no one could understand and no one paid attention to. The zither music still echoed throughout the area, but no one was seriously listening. Even if there was someone listening seriously, she couldn't see. Wishing for the like button for the video. Thinking nonsense. Wishing for the like button for the video. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter Unyielding. Wang Lin left the river and slowly walked in the night with the two sergeants following him. The two sergeants both looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. In their view, Wang Lin had spent most of the time strolling the city and then staring at the river in a daze. The sky was now dark, but this person was still slowly walking down the street. During the night, Hong City was lit up by lights as if it was a city without night. As Wang Lin slowly walked on the road, his gaze fell on a dark area in the distance. There were many large buildings there, and the entire area had a depressing atmosphere. This aura was filled with death and resentment. One of the sergeants followed Wang Lin's gaze and whispered, "That is one of the 4 great prisons of the capital, Hong Prison." Hong Prison, Wang Lin nodded. The sergeant explained, "Hong Prison is filled with felons and is well guarded. It is impossible for one to enter and exit without a token." Wang Lin carefully looked at this Hong Prison. He had already noticed that place before because it contained several powerful demonic spiritual energies no weaker than Mo Lihai. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin walked toward the Mo Mansion. After returning to the Mo Mansion, Wang Lin went straight to Mo Lihai's residence. Mo Lihai was cultivating, and when Wang Lin opened the door, he opened his eyes. "I want to go to Hong Prison. Does Brother Mo have a way?" Mo Lihai was startled. He looked at Wang Lin but didn't ask for the reason. Instead, he pondered for a bit and said, "There are some difficulties." Wang Lin frowned and said, "Then forget it." Mo Lihai faintly smiled and said, "How long do you want to stay there?" Wang Lin said, "About 1 month." Mo Lihai's eyes narrowed and he said, "Cultivating?" Wang Lin nodded at Mo Lihai and said, "I need to kill to train my spell, and if I were to do that here in the city it would cause unnecessary trouble." With that, Wang Lin added, "If I can succeed, then my ability to help you will increase." Mo Lihai stood up. Then he stared at Wang Lin and asked, "Word for word, are you sure?" Wang Lin didn't waste time as he waved his hand and 5 strands of slaughter energy appeared. They took the form of 5 dragons and charged toward Mo Lihai like lightning. Mo Lihai laughed and threw a punch. There was a sound of force pushing through the air and the 5 dragons collapsed. However, Mo Lihai's smile disappeared, and he revealed a strange expression before retreating 3 steps. The shattered gray gas reformed into the 5 dragons, and a thick slaughter aura spread out and immediately surrounded the entire Mo Mansion. All of the soldiers inside the mansion were alarmed by this, and rushed over. At the same time, these 5 strands of slaughter energy charged at Mo Lihai. His eyes lit up, and he threw another punch. The 5 strands of slaughter energy dodged his punch and aimed at his chest. The slaughter energy suddenly closed in but was stopped by an invisible force 7 inches away from Mo Lihai's body and was forced back. Even so, the screen of demonic spiritual energy before Mo Lihai also shook violently. Wang Lin slowly said, "If I had more than 1,000 strands, could you still block it so easily?" Mo Lihai's eyes lit up. This was not the first time he had seen the slaughter energy. Compared to the last 2 times, it was much more powerful this time. He decisively said, 1 month is too long for me to do, but 7 days is no problem. Hong Prison has tens of thousands of felons, so 7 days should be enough for you to cultivate. Wait for me and I'll have an entry letter for you in 3 days. Wang Lin nodded and then left the room. Mo Lihai revealed a pondering expression. After a long time he muttered, "I indeed can underestimate this Wang Lin. It looks like exchanging that 13's life for his help was the right thing to do." Ignoring the power of that palm, just the power of those gray gas strands filled with killing intent is extremely abnormal. With only 5 strands that aren't even at full power, he was able to cause my demonic armor to shake. It is even sharper than some demonic swords. This isn't the most important thing though. There is something mysterious about that gray gas that can affect the life force in my body. If there were more than 1,000 strands of that gray gas, it would be very dangerous. It is best not to make an enemy of Wang Lin, and maintain our current relationship. He pondered a bit before leaving the room and working to get Wang Lin access to Hong Prison. Wang Lin didn't return to his room, but sat in the lotus position in the courtyard. Although the surroundings were completely quiet, there was still faint zither music in his ears. Although this zither music was faint, it had its unique charms that didn't disappear. Wang Lin didn't cultivate tonight. He didn't even think about the celestial slaughter art at all. He just quietly sat there under the starlight, listening to the zither music in his heart. His figure created a long shadow from the moonlight. This shadow looked exceptionally bleak. Merely a lonely shadow. A jar of high-quality wine from ancient Demon City was placed next to Wang Lin. He would occasionally pick up the jar and take a drink. The bleakness of his shadow gradually affected his body, and his loneliness seemed to fuse with the moonlight that imprinted on his body and soul. I, Wang Lin, began learning Tao at the age of 16, but I have long forgotten exactly how long I have cultivated for Wang Lin, picked up the jar and took a big jump. The wine leaked out from the corner of his mouth and dripped on his clothes. Wang Lin looked at the starlight in the sky and revealed a hint of loneliness. Cultivators walk against the heavens and are destined to be forever lonely. There were no sounds, but Wang Lin could still faintly hear the zither music. He wiped the wine from the corner of his mouth and muttered, "Being lonely for life gives one the heart to seek Tao, but how many people can truly savor this feeling of loneliness? Just like this wine, it is spicy when it enters the mouth, but then it turns into warmth once it enters the body." Under the starlight and moonlight, a solitary shadow was drinking wine and contemplating life. I don't know how those cultivators who have cultivated for over 10,000 years endured those 10,000 years. But I know that if one doesn't have at least a tiny bit of emotion, they are only cultivating their self-created Tao and not the Tao of the heavens. The heavens and earth are inhumane. Cultivating is about going against the heavens, but if a cultivator is also heartless, then they are also inhumane. Using an inhumane heart to cultivate the heaven's inhumane Tao, how can that be considered going against the heavens? That is merely following the will of the heavens. Since ancient times, those that followed the will of the heavens were favored by the heavens, but in truth they were merely insects. My Tao doesn't follow the will of the heavens. I follow my heart to walk against the heavens. I don't seek to be immortal. I seek to get rid of my status as an insect. That is what it means to rebel. Wang Lin drank all the wine in the jar in one gulp, and then threw it. The jar shattered when it landed, then Wang Lin touched between his eyebrows and leaned to the side. The bleakness in his eyes slowly disappeared. The moonlight slowly disappeared and the sun gradually rose as Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes. Tonight, he was drunk. He was drunk from wine and emotion. At the moment he awakened, everything that happened last night was buried deep in his heart and sealed in a place that couldn't be touched. 3 days of time passed by in a flash. In those 3 days, Wang Lin didn't cultivate. Instead, he would leave the Mo mansion every morning and wait by the riverside for that short period of time when the zither music would pass by. That sad zither music flowed through his mind, piercing through those sealed memories and entering deep into his heart. While listening to the zither music and drinking the wine the sergeants brought him, Wang Lin was completely immersed in the moment and gained some enlightenment. The woman on the boat didn't know that there was someone seriously listening to her zither music in those 3 days. She just knew that whenever she passed by that spot, the sadness in her heart would increase, and that sadness entered her hand and escaped through her music. During these 3 days, Wang Lin was very peaceful. He distanced himself from conflict and slaughter. He forgot about the danger of Tuo Sen, forgot about his agreement with Mo Lihai, and forgot his own hope for reaching the ascendant stage. With the zither music and wine accompanying him, he experienced a short baptism for his heart. He never tried to see what the woman looked like. Just her figure and zither music was enough. If it wasn't for Mo Lihai having already settled the matter for Wang Lin to enter Hong Prison, he would have continued to sit there and cleanse his heart. He didn't know how long he would have stayed there for, perhaps until the strings on the zither broke and it no longer produced any music. Wang Lin withdrew himself from the zither music. He stood up and watched the boat gradually leave. At this moment, the woman on the boat suddenly turned around to look at the riverside. Although everything before her was still dark, the figure of that man leaving appeared in her eyes. A calm voice came from beside the woman. "Ming Xuan, what are you looking at?" The zither music suddenly stopped. The woman turned around and lowered her head. Then her jade-like hands floated above the zither S strings and trembled slightly. To her, his voice represented the heavens and an irresistible fate. Your zither music is too sad, so the guests want you to change. Although the voice was calm, it was also spoken in a way that meant she couldn't refuse. The woman pondered and then began to play the zither. The zither music suddenly changed to that of a spring march, and a cheerful sound filled the boat and river. Very good. In the future, play like this. The voice from before came once more. The cheerful zither music spread out, and although the music was joyful, if one listened closely, they would be able to tell that it wasn't joyful at all, but a silent cry. This cry was filled with sadness and pain. The best way to describe this was a forced smile. The music slowly filled the boat and matched the sound of the laughter, but it never fused with it. There was a powerful bitterness hidden behind this forced smile. This bitterness was very well hidden by the zither music, and Ming Xuan knew that no one but her could understand. As the boat drifted away, so did the music, leaving behind only the ripples caused by the boat. The ripples slowly spread to the two sides of the river. Wishing for the like button for the video, hoping to charge through the trending charts for the video this month. Chapter 572, Celestial Slaughter Art, Part 1. The happy music with deep sadness entered Wang Lin's ears. It caused him to pause for a moment, but he didn't turn around and continued to walk away. It was not midnight, but the full moon hung in the sky and the moonlight covered Sky Demon City like a thin silk sheet. Two figures appeared outside the Mo Mansion, and both disappeared in a flash of smoke. They charged toward Hong Prison. Both of them were very fast as they flew over the various buildings and streets of Hong City, and soon arrived outside Hong Prison. From a distance, the killing intent and resentment in this place was monstrous. It was like a demonic flame that burned in the night sky. The two figures from the Mo Mansion revealed themselves outside Hong Prison. These two were Mo Lihai and Wang Lin. The moment the two of them appeared, the huge black iron door before them suddenly opened a small crack. A grim-looking hunchback man walked out from this gap. He looked at the two of them, and without a word he waved his hand before going back inside. Wang Lin's eyes squinted unnoticeably. The grim-looking man's cultivation level was the same as Mo Lihai's. They both had cultivation equal to peak late-stage soul transformation cultivators. Mo Lihai took a step forward and moved like lightning through the gap. Wang Lin casually followed behind him. The grim-looking hunchback man examined Wang Lin and asked, "Is this the person Brother Mo talked about?" Mo Lihai nodded and said, "He is. The rest will depend on Brother Shu." The man named Shu nodded and said, "You can leave, I'll take him inside." Mo Lihai arrived next to Wang Lin and whispered, "Brother Wang, take care. I hope your cultivation is successful." With that, he took a step and disappeared. The man named Shu looked at Wang Lin and asked, "What is your name?" "Wang Lin." Wang Lin's voice was very calm. The man named Shu didn't speak more. He just turned around and walked into Hong Prison. Wang Lin followed the man, and his steps were very steady. The deeper they went, the more intense the killing intent became. The gray-robed man seemed to enjoy the aura very much. He secretly looked at Wang Lin and was very surprised to find Wang Lin so calm. Then he thought that if Mo Lihai was willing to spend this much, this person must have something extraordinary about him. Hong Prison was split into two parts. The part above the ground was just the surface, and there was another part underground. The man named Shu acted quickly as he directly led Wang Lin underground. The two of them went down a gloomy flight of stairs. There were some ghostly flames on the sides of the wall. The flickering of the fire made this place even more eerie. When they first stepped on the stairs, it was very quiet, but as they went down, sounds of shouting and roaring could be heard from the depths. These voices were filled with killing intent and resentment. Compared to what could be seen on the surface, this was more than 10 times stronger. The man named Shu purposely slowed down, and he secretly observed Wang Lin. He knew that the aura from this prison was almost strong enough to condense into solid form. Even demon generals with similar cultivation levels to him would feel discomfort unless they were like him, who has lived here for hundreds of years. He had already gotten used to this aura from cultivating here for so long. The more he saw, the more shocked he became. Wang Lin's expression still looked normal, and from his observation, it didn't look like Wang Lin was forcing himself to appear normal. Instead, it looked as if Wang Lin was about to integrate into the surroundings. After examining Wang Lin, the man named Shu gave up on any ideas he had. He understood that for this person to choose to come here to cultivate, This person must have something special about him. If he were to scout anymore, it would be inappropriate. This staircase was very long. After a long time, the two of them arrived at the end. The end was very creepy. It was like a giant cage that had been divided up into thousands of separate cages. Waves of shouting and roars along with countless curses echoed within the area. This sound was too loud. If it was a normal person, their ears would immediately ring endlessly from the noise. The man named Shu was already used to all of this. He said in a gloomy tone, "All of you quiet." After he said that, all of the sounds from the cell stopped and an oppressive aura slowly formed. There was a black house at the entrance of this cell block. Standing outside the house, the man named Shu examined Wang Lin once more. He revealed a smile, but this smile made his face even more eerie than before. "Brother Wang, this is the section I am responsible for. I handpicked all of them, and they are all going to be executed by January, so you can cultivate to your heart's desire. Even if you kill them all at one tea matter." Wang Lin's divine sense spread out, and immediately found that there were many areas with restrictions guarding them. Wang Lin clasped his hands and said, "Many thanks." The man named Shu let out a hoarse laugh and said, "No need to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Mo Lihai. He gave me the first 3 levels of the 10 collapsed fist intent for me to let you in." He gave a meaningful look to Wang Lin before going into the black house. "The first 3 levels of the 10 collapsed first intent Mo Lihai indeed paid a lot for me to enter here." Wang Lin pondered a bit before walking into this large cage. This place was like a grid with rows of cells neatly arranged. When Wang Lin walked in, the oppression from before exploded, and the shouting and roaring resumed. The shouts and roars spread out like sound wave spells. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he walked past rows of cells. Countless black hands reached out from the bars as if they were trying to catch him. At the same time, bursts of laughter came from the cells. "Where did this new guy come from? Come here and let me touch you. It has been more than 10 years since I saw skin that delicate. You look exactly the same as the whore I killed before." "Foreigner. Back then I loved to kill you foreigners the most." Pairs of blood-red eyes stared at Wang Lin from behind the bars. There were various emotions and desires behind those eyes. Wang Lin coldly looked at these people. These people must not have been this crazy years ago. They became like this due to spending too much time here. If one's heart was not sturdy, they would be assimilated by the killing intent and resentment here. Not all of the prisoners were shouting. There were still some that silently sat in their cages. "Newcomer, come here." A black man from a cell next to Wang Lin reached out with both his hands toward Wang Lin. When he noticed Wang Lin turn around toward him, he spat directly at Wang Lin. Wang Lin took a step back and dodged this foul-smelling spit. The black person laughed loudly. His eyes were filled with scorn. Wang Lin's expression was still neutral. Then he looked at the person and revealed a smile. He was originally going to step forward, but stopped. The completely black person saw Wang Lin's smile and couldn't help but tremble. For some reason, when he saw that smile, he felt an incredible amount of fear, and the scorn in his eyes paused for a moment. However, this was immediately replaced by viciousness. Wang Lin stretched out his right hand to a place where that person could reach, and calmly said, "Come." The person was startled. He subconsciously took a few steps back and revealed a gloomy expression. Wang Lin said, once more, "Come." At this moment, the shouting and roaring became even more intense, due to the shouting of the surrounding inmates. The black person clenched his teeth as his hand formed a claw and reached out toward Wang Lin's right hand through cage bars. At the moment the person's hand reached out, Wang Lin's right hand turned into a sword and pointed at that person's palm. At the same time, a strand of slaughter energy drilled into that person. The prisoner's body trembled, and he took a few steps back. His entire body convulsed, black blood came out of his orifices, and his face distorted like he was suffering a lot of pain. At this moment, the shouting of the surrounding prisoners became even more intense. But a second later, a miserable shrill arose from this person. This scream was like a sharp sword that penetrated all of the screaming and completely suppressed everything. At this moment, everyone nearby stopped shouting. The miserable scream didn't stop and continued. This scream was filled with intense fear, and Wang Lin looked on with indifference. The man inside the cage already had a thin body, and it gradually withered even more until he was a mummy. This mummy had his mouth open and was filled with gray gas. The gray gas returned to Wang Lin's hand. It was now a bit thicker than before. Still only one strand. Wang Lin frowned. Wang Lin was still observing. The moment the slaughter energy entered this person, it immediately began to absorb this person's life force. This included the soul, blood, flesh, and all his essence. Using the slaughter energy to kill someone can only nourish it. If I want to make it split into another strand, I am still missing something, missing some enlightenment. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before looking at the mummy. This person's cultivation level wasn't T high, and with the restriction in his body, he couldn't T display his full strength. It wasn't T just him that was like this. Almost every prisoner in this prison was the same. The miserable screams stopped with this person's death, and the prison became extremely quiet. However, this silence only lasted for a moment before the shouting started once more. Only this time it was even more explosive. Wang Lin walked toward the next cell. The person inside the cell revealed a bloodthirsty smile at Wang Lin. He licked his lips as he backed away from Wang Lin and said, "Brat, you are cultivating, right? Do me a favor and kill the person opposite me, then I'll fully cooperate with you. How about it?" The person locked in the cell opposite him was a burly man. The man from the opposite cage stared at him and shouted, "I already find you displeasing to look at. Brat, if you kill him, I'll fully cooperate with you. I have been locked away in this damned place long enough. The earlier I die, the sooner I can reincarnate." Wang Lin didn't speak as he pointed at both of them. Two blood-red dots appeared on both their foreheads and began to spread. Both of them fell to the ground, but there was a hint of relief in their eyes. From the moment he entered here, Wang Lin could clearly feel a hint of death aura along with the resentment. At first he thought that the death aura was present, because too many people had died here. But after being here for a bit, Wang Lin found that the death aura came from the prisoners. They all wanted to die, but many didn't have the courage to kill themselves. At the moment the two of them fell down, Wang Lin carefully looked at their bodies. He didn't use the slaughter energy to kill the two of them, so their bodies remained intact. But a strange aura disappeared from their bodies. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he vaguely felt like he had grasped something, but after thinking about it carefully, he was still somewhat confused. Celestial slaughter art, refining one's life force into a seal. I have cultivated and pondered this spell many times. I always feel like I gained enlightenment. But sometimes it's all a blur. Wang Lin's right hand reached out and the burly man's body was caught by him. Wang Lin knelt down as he pointed at the hole between this person's eyebrows and carefully examined it. His eyebrows furrowed harder and harder. Wang Lin let out a sigh as he got up and walked toward the next cell. Following Wang Lin's footsteps, one prisoner after another died. Every time he killed one person, he would carefully look at the corpse and examine it for a long time. After 5 days, more than half of the prisoners here died. A thick death aura filled the area and didn't disappear for a long time. Wang Lin observed thousands of bodies and gradually gained a hint of enlightenment. But there seemed to be a layer of mist between him and this enlightenment. He couldn't see it clearly or touch it. What am I missing? Wang Lin pondered. Because you haven't killed enough. Your urge to kill isn't enough. The man named Shu slowly walked out from his black house. There was something different about his gaze toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin raised his head. He looked at the man named Shu and didn't speak. The man named Shu slowly said, "Although I don't know the specifics, the spell you are cultivating should be related to slaughter, and that is why you need to cultivate here. However, you still chose the wrong place, because killing here won't produce enough murderous intent to create a slaughter aura. Although I have seen you kill a lot during these 5 days, most of your time was spent on researching. Sometimes, no amount of research can compare to simply immersing yourself in slaughter, experiencing the pleasure of slaughter, and gaining the killing heart." Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. "I cultivate the demon slaughter Dao." The man named Shu looked at Wang Lin and said, "There are 10 wardens in Hong Prison, and only I cultivate the demon slaughter Dao. I use slaughter to refine my heart and become a demon. Carefully observe my killing heart." After the man named Shu finished speaking, his eyes suddenly became cold. Not a hint of killing intent came from his body, but Wang Lin felt like he had suddenly changed. Although there was no killing intent, Wang Lin felt all of the hair on his body stand up. His origin soul involuntarily shook, and a sense of extreme danger appeared in his heart. Then an unknown aura appeared from this person. Although this aura wasn't spreading, it was extremely terrifying. The man named Shu slowly said, "An already sheathed sword is sharp and can create killing intent, but it lacks a certain amount of foundation compared to an unsheathed sword. A real killing heart is an unsheathed sword. If you really want to cultivate slaughter, I can take you to a place where you should be able to experience real slaughter." Wang Lin looked at the person and said, "Condition." The man named Shu revealed a hit of admiration and said, "Help me kill the demon general named Xianxia." Don't ask me why. With my killing heart, I am evenly matched with him, but I am 100% confident in killing him in secret. However, I am restricted and can leave this Hong prison, and he would never enter this place in his life. That is why if you help me kill him, I'll help you cultivate your slaughter spell. But I have one more condition. You must kill him using the slaughter spell. Let him die to the path of slaughter. The man named Shu revealed a hint of hatred in his eyes. "If I can really complete my slaughter cultivation, then I can accept your condition," said Wang Lin, in a calm voice. He purposely didn't say everything. "Follow me." The man named Shu revealed an eerie smile and turned around. The prisons of Hong Prison are just a front. The real role of the 4 prisons in Sky Demon City is to provide killing intent for the Demon Emperor's sword. That is why the bottom of the prison is where you need to go. Only there can you truly comprehend the killing heart. Wang Lin followed the man named Shu and left this place before going down another flight of stairs. The stairs seemed to never end. They passed by many prisoners, but the man named Shu didn't stop and directly passed by them all. After a long time, as Wang Lin continued to descend down the stairs, a thick smell of blood appeared. The killing intent here was 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times stronger than it was above. The passage before the stairs was no longer dark, but had a blood-colored light lighting it up. The man named Shu gently said, "I have broken the rules by leading you here, so you mustn't tell anyone else about this, not even Mo Lihai. This palace was created by the Demon Emperor, and has accumulated enough killing intent to affect one's heart. Don't fight it, and instead accept it with your heart. Experience the killing intent." Wang Lin pondered for a bit. After looking at the man named Shu, he could feel the powerful killing intent coming from below. The killing intent down there was monstrous, and should help his celestial slaughter art. He hadn't even gotten close, and the strands of slaughter energy between his fingers already began to move even faster. There was a slight bit of trembling coming from them. This wasn't trembling from fear, but the urge to kill. Feeling the change in the slaughter energy, Wang Lin stepped into the blood-colored light and walked down the flight of stairs.